Chapter 335. The next day, early morning. Dong dong dong. Li Zhongjiu opened his eyes. The sky was already bright. After opening the door, he saw Kun Erisher standing at the door. "Morning, I live next door to you. Shall we go to class together?" Kun Erisher said. Kun Erisher was very lucky to be able to enter the A class at the same time. According to common sense, Kun Erisher shouldn't be able to enter the A class. However, his identity in Kun Castle gave him extra points. Furthermore, this Heavenly Day Medicine Manor didn't want Li Zhongjiu to be arrogant. They needed to nurture a genius of the same level and let them compete with each other. That was why they sent two of them in at the same time. Not interested. Li Zhongjiu closed the door after saying that. Not interested. Kun Erisher widened his eyes. This Li Zhongjiu went through so much trouble and came all the way here just to enter this Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. Now that he could go to class, he actually said that he wasn't interested. Could it be that he heard wrongly? This first class is a class with a great beauty. I heard that she's the winner of the last alchemist competition. TSK, you're really not interested? Kun Erisher shouted at Li Zhongjiu's door. However, there was no response. It was as if she had disappeared. This cultivation maniac. Kun Erisher shook his head helplessly and went to class alone. When Kun Erisher arrived at the classroom, he only saw a lazy figure sitting on the podium in the empty classroom. "Oh. You're alone. Isn't there a new student?" The person on the podium was wearing an alluring red robe. If one didn't know, they would think that it was a nightgown. The robe was slim and tight, perfectly outlining the figure of the lecturer in front of him. With such a figure, anyone who saw it couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Kun Erisher was naturally feeling smug in his heart. He never thought that the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's teaching environment would be so good. Tutor, greetings. I'm Kun Erisher. There's another one. He's not feeling well. Kun Erisher was actually a little nervous. He found a seat in the middle and sat down. That guy is pretty gutsy. He actually dared to skip class on the first day. I'll remember it. Also, my name is Ling Yan, you can call me Sister Yan. I'm your homeroom teacher, not a teacher. Our class doesn't have classes. You're free to move around. You can attend any teacher's class. Alright, scram. Don't stay in front of me. At the end of the semester, if you can't break through to advanced level 4, then don't stay in my class. Pack up your bed and leave. The red-robed woman said indifferently. She waved her hand casually. Even her posture of telling people to scram was extremely charming, causing people to be unable to extricate themselves from it. Got it. Kun Erisher didn't think that it would be such a situation. This extremely charming, homeroom teacher didn't seem like a person to be trifled with. Moreover, from the looks of it, if he were to cause any trouble for her, he might just end up getting a good beating. Oh right, go tell that guy called Li Zhongjiu to restrain himself a little. Don't cause too much trouble for me. If there's any problem with my year-end performance evaluation, not only will I kick you out of the A class, I can also kick you out of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. I don't want you. Let's see which class dares to accept you. Ling Yan gave people the feeling of an arrogant big sister. Her words stunned Kun Erisher into not daring to even let out a fart. He repeatedly bowed and then left the classroom. After Kun Erisher left, Ling Yan also looked outside and let out a sigh of relief. This little bastard, I originally wanted to give them a show of strength, but they actually dared to not show up. They are really arrogant. You don't want to show up, right? You want to be an ascetic monk, right? Let's see how you will bow down to me. From this point, it could be seen that this Ling Yan was definitely not a person to be trifled with. Coincidentally, this Ling Yan obtained the 5th place in the last alchemist competition. Before that, she was even the number one on the alchemist ranking. At such a young age, she was already a fifth-grade alchemist. With this kind of ability, she indeed had the qualifications to say such words and even lead such a class. Of course, this class only had two people, Li Zhongjiu and Kuan Erisher. In fact, this was also Ling Yan's first time being a homeroom teacher. Originally, this a class of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manners A class was just opened. Naturally, a homeroom teacher was needed. Ling Yan graduated less than a year ago. Originally, she was just an elder in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, a casual job. After all, the elusive mansion master was her biological grandfather. Moreover, he directly asked the two headmaster grandpas to watch over her and not let her run around. Now, he even directly took out two troublemakers and asked him to watch over them. How could this be? Of course, he had to show off his prestige. However, what Ling Yan didn't expect was that Li Zhongjiu actually didn't show up. Looks like my clothes have shocked him quite a bit. Hee. After Ling Yan stood up, she immediately changed into a black martial robe. It was loose and long. Looking at her appearance, she was usually a lively girl. Since these people have nothing to do, I might as well organize an autumn camp activity. The herbs near the Blazing Mountain should be ripe. Let them go and play. The Blazing Mountain was a more colloquial name in the outside world. This Blazing Mountain was called the Incandescent Mountain. The Incandescent Mountain had originally been an ordinary mountain range. However, a meteorite had suddenly fallen from the sky and landed directly in the Incandescent Mountain range. Furthermore, the meteorite had become the core of the Incandescent Mountain. It was said that the temperature at the core of the Incandescent Mountain could easily melt even a Yuan monarch elite. However, the strange thing was that this temperature could only melt flesh and blood. All other types of energy could exist. Therefore, there were some rather powerful spiritual herbs that contained fire elemental energy growing beside the meteorite. In addition, some fire elemental beasts with extremely high tolerance also directly used the power of the Incandescent Mountain to cultivate. If a Yuan Zone elite got close to the Incandescent Mountain, they would definitely feel the scorching heat within 1,000 meters. If they got close to the Incandescent Mountain, they would start to feel uncomfortable. This high temperature was like staying in a medicinal cauldron and suffering. If they got close to the Incandescent Mountain, they would probably die from the heat. There was no way to get close to the Incandescent Mountain without a proper method. The Heavenly Star Medicine Hall wanted to obtain these fire elemental herbs. At the same time, they also wanted to achieve the effect of training the abilities of their students. Therefore, they would let these students personally pick the herbs. The most shameful thing was that this was a glorified name. Extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities had a special characteristic. Those who didn't have a mission weren't allowed to participate. After all, there were still some restrictions after joining the academy. Chapter 336. Li Zhongjiu swallowed a 5-soul essence pill. Suddenly, he felt his soul grow stronger, as if he had been enlightened. The effect of the 5-soul essence pill was still very significant among the 4th-grade pills. However, no matter how rich a person was, it was difficult for them to be like Li Zhongjiu, who ate these pills as if they were jelly beans without feeling any heartache. Even Yang Xuelin, as a level 5 alchemist, would need at least half a month to prepare to refine the 5-soul origin pill. Even if she was prepared, she would need to spend a lot of time to recuperate her body after the refinement was completed. After all, in the case of alchemy, the body's meridians were like a fuse, constantly sending the fire elemental energy into the medicine cauldron. Therefore, it was also a great loss to the body's meridians. No one could continuously refine pills for a long time, unless they didn't want to live, then they could try it. Li Zhongjiu, with the help of the Azura cauldron, directly refined 50 pills in one furnace. The same time, but the efficiency was completely different. This was also the difference between a high-level alchemist and an ordinary alchemist. If an ordinary alchemist wanted to reach such a cultivation level, it would take at least 100 years of accumulation. Geniuses were just geniuses, but those real masters, with hundreds of years of alchemy experience, were not just for show. Even if there was a slight difference, it could have a huge impact on the overall effect of the alchemy. After refining a 5-soul essence pill, Li Zongjiu also felt that his mental strength had improved a lot. To a certain extent, the blood-spirit world also relies on mental strength and the accumulation of killing intent. With my many years of killing experience, my understanding of the blood-spirit world is higher than that of the blood dragon sovereign. Therefore, improving my mental strength is the best way. Li Zongjiu thought. Mental energy was very important, so Li Zongjiu had never slacked off. The vast flying knife in his hand was constantly enhancing Li Zongjiu's Jin Xingli, so his cultivation speed had also increased. Now isn't the time to train in the infernal prajna technique. As for the comprehension of the black bat sword, I'll have to wait for a good opportunity in the future. My physical strength still has a lot of room for improvement. Li Zongjiu calculated. It was extremely difficult to solve the difficult questions in the Genius Pavilion and reach the 14th level in one go. At the very least, one's overall strength had to be at least a grade 7 or even grade 8 Yuan ancestor. Otherwise, the exhaustion of solving a difficult question would be sufficient to exhaust one's strength. This was not as simple as doing a test paper. Instead, it was a kind of empty world, and people were in it. One needed to use one's strength to continuously deduce. One could imagine that it was a process of using one's mind to neatly arrange a pile of thousands of kilograms of stones in front of one's body. In the process of deduction, one would consume one's physical strength, mental energy, and even one's soul. Therefore, one would be extremely tired. At the same time, if one wanted to solve the question smoothly, one would need to find the right direction of deduction. If the direction was wrong, it would be a waste of time. Li Zongjiu grasped all the directions of deduction, so he could easily deduce. However, at the same time, Li Zongjiu's current strength was still insufficient, so he could not directly solve the question. Some idiots thought that their strength was not bad, and that their talent was not bad, so they foolishly rushed into the Genius Pavilion, as if they were prepared to solve the difficult questions and make a name for themselves. However, they did not know that if this continued, it would only be a waste of time. At least in the eyes of a sovereign like Li Zongjiu, it was a waste of time. After refining a 5-soul essence pill, Li Zongjiu continued to immerse himself in the cultivation process of the white god Fu. He was always in a state of cultivation. On one side, Li Zongjiu was focused on cultivation. On the other side, Beihou Liang, who was trembling with fear, did not dare to go out at all these days. Even now, he seemed to have heard the news that an inescapable net had been set up outside, waiting to deal with him, Beihou Liang. In addition, Li Zongjiu had given him the task of collecting information, and it was not easy for him to collect this information. Now, he only hoped to send this information to Li Zongjiu as soon as possible. Although it was not very complete, it was not that there was nothing. Otherwise, if the ruthless Li Zongjiu came to find him, Beihou Liang would be completely dead. He had never imagined that he, the great Beihou Liang, would actually end up in such a state. Beihou Liang did not directly look for Li Zongjiu. After all, facing Li Zongjiu would give him an oppressive and sinister feeling. Fortunately, there was something like a mailbox in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. After all, there were many times when you wanted to find someone, but that person might not necessarily be waiting for you there. Therefore, the mailbox function was very useful. After packing everything up, he sent it to Li Zongjiu's personal mailbox. He just happened to see someone come over and write something on the board of the Heavenly Day A-class male dormitory. Beihou Liang stopped and looked for a while. His eyes immediately widened. WH. What? There's an extracurricular activity tomorrow, and it's going to the White Blaze Mountain. This extracurricular activity had been initiated by the Heavenly Day A-class homeroom teacher, and it had received a response very quickly. It was also a good opportunity to let the new students know how amazing the Heavenly Day medicine manner was. It could also be considered a lesson for the new students. It was worth mentioning that this time, there would also be a small-scale scoring competition. In the end, the top 10 who collected the herbs would be rewarded with points. These points were something that everyone coveted. After all, it was related to the ranking of the alchemy master role. No one would think that their skills were inferior to others. In fact, they would even think that they had a chance. As long as they were under certain conditions, or within a certain period of time, they would have a chance to turn things around. At the very least, they would have to make their ranking look better. Oh no, there's going to be an outdoor activity. Wouldn't that be dangerous? Beihou Liang was also thinking about whether he should pretend to be sick and ask for leave. After all, once he was outdoors, he might be targeted by that night lone moon. What's more, the White Blaze Mountain was outside the city. The risk factor was greatly increased. I have to hurry and think of a way. Beihou Liang hurriedly left and realized that the announcement had already been written below his dormitory. News of this matter would probably spread out very soon. Lone Moon Manor. At this moment, that night Lone Moon was already speechless. He sent out close to 20 experts, but in the end, not a single one returned. 20 people can't catch one person. All of you can kill yourselves. Yi Lone Moon waved his hand. He was already completely helpless towards these people under him. Even if all of them died in front of him, he would not even blink. Young master, calm down. Now there is a heaven-sent opportunity in front of us. Yes, we just received news that the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor will organize an outdoor activity tomorrow. We have already found out the location. It's at the White Blaze Mountain. Yes, the White Blaze Mountain. Young master, we just need to set it up well. There will definitely be no problem. All the staff members were excited. Otherwise, this night lone moon would really kill. Tomorrow is your last chance. If it doesn't work, then all of you can go to hell. All of you, get lost. Yi Lone Moon waved his hand and ordered the people in front of him to leave. Then, he paced back and forth in the room. Finally, he also smacked his hands. It's useless to rely on these useless people. Looks like I have to make a trip to Big Sister. Chapter 337. Li Zongjiu received this information from the mailbox. Someone specially came to remind him, so Li Zongjiu was able to get it. Otherwise, he would have stayed in this room and continued to cultivate the white god Fu. Yi clan, I'll start with you. Faced with this kind of provocation, no one could tolerate it, let alone Li Zongjiu. How could he let these people step on Li Zongjiu's head and make a scene? Therefore, Li Zongjiu naturally took action. He looked through the information. Boyu Casino. It just so happens that I've been a little poor recently. Although the information found by Beihou Liang was not very secret, it was more accurate than some of the information in the market. There were also some deeper information that was dug out. For example, this Boyu Casino was one of the more obscure businesses of the Yi clan. Usually, it was under other people's names, but when it came to paying, it was handed over to the Boyu Casino. Because Beihou Liang often went to the casino to take care of it, he more or less heard about it. This Boyu Casino was considered a relatively large gold medal casino in Royal City. Opening a casino required a license, and this license had to be divided into grades. The gold medal casino was the highest grade. Just the amount of money that was bet on this stage every day was often an extremely terrifying number. In order to encourage these gamblers to bet crazily, they would often come up with some gimmicks to attract some gamblers who came to visit. Since they had already come to this casino, how could they not gamble? Moreover, they would often give out some benefits. For example, they would give away 2,000 if they bet 10,000. In the end, even if they lost, they would still give some compensation so that they would not feel that they had suffered a loss. Tonight, the Wuxia Casino was also holding a Pai Gao tournament. At the same time, they also invited a beautiful gambler from the Pai Gao world to appear. This increased the enthusiasm of these gamblers. Have you heard? Tonight, the Heavenly Queen of 9 Victories will open at the Wuxia Casino. Whoever wins against her will have no problem sleeping with her. There's such a good thing, we must go and see. Yes, I heard that tonight, there will definitely be a gathering of experts. Let's go together. When night fell, the Broad Delight Casino was already a hubbub of voices. All sorts of banners were hung at the side, and the same name was written on them, 9 Victories Heavenly Queen. It was said that the Empress of 9 Victories had exquisite gambling skills and was extremely beautiful. Anyone who saw her would drool with desire. Who would have thought that such a stunningly beautiful woman would actually appear in the Broad Joy Casino? It seemed that the Broad Joy Casino had invested quite a bit of capital in order to improve their performance. Li Zongjio raised his head and glanced at the Great Pleasure Casino. The signboard hanging high outside was not the word casino, but Joy Golden Manor. First of all, the first floor was an ordinary gambling hall. All kinds of gambling methods were laid out on the table. As long as you were interested, you could sit down and gamble at the opening of the hall. In the area on the second floor, there were private rooms. Generally, some big shots or rich people would form a card game here. In addition to satisfying their cravings, more importantly, they would come here to discuss some matters. Moreover, there were many polite guards standing at the staircase of the second floor. Ordinary people were not allowed to enter and exit as they pleased. This way, it would immediately appear that they were of high status. Such treatment was naturally good. It seems that it's not easy to meet the owner. Li Zongjio originally wanted to directly kill his way in, but seeing that there were so many people at the scene, wouldn't it be better to kill everyone? Moreover, these people were now in a state of excitement. Who knew if they would cause trouble? However, when it came to robbing, it was still faster to gamble on the spot. Give me 100 gold coins worth of chips. Li Zongjio handed over a gold coin deposit check. It was not easy for him to save this money. Because it was in the corner of his storage ring, he did not find it immediately. Now it was just in time to save him. Here you go. A small palm yellow sign was pushed out from the window. The number 100 was printed on the sign. It was exactly 100 gold coins. The people who came here to play included ordinary people as well as high-level people. The moves of the high-level people were naturally different. But for these ordinary people, the denomination of 100 gold coins was enough. Li Zongjio threw the chips in his hand and casually sat in front of a gambling table. Oh, such a young child also came to gamble. Hee, little guy, you can't go wrong if you follow your uncle and buy big. After saying that, the other party also threw out a few thousand gold coins as chips and then waited expectantly for the dealer to open. The rest of the people also placed their bets. The game in front of them was dice. They could guess the number and also buy big or small. There were a total of 3 dice, so the winning rate was relatively high. It gave more people a chance to fight for a chance to turn things around. The multiplier would be different depending on the number of points. For example, with 3 sixes, the odds were 100 times. Li Zongjio didn't even think and directly put his chips on the 3 sixes. Everyone knew that the dealer could set whatever time he wanted. Therefore, when people bought, they tried their best not to deliberately win. To bet on such a multiplier was simply a fool. The dealer in charge of shaking the dice didn't care. After a while, after everyone placed their bets, he began to shake the dice in his hand. Big. 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 Small. 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 Li Zongjiu sat there and seemed to be inconspicuous. Soon, he was drowned out by the noise. The dealer also slammed the dice in his hand on the table. With his many years of experience, this round was definitely a leopard. 3 twos. No one at the scene bet on the leopard. Only a fool bet on 3 sixes. Although these 3 sixes appeared occasionally, the probability of winning was too low. When the movement stopped, the surrounding people seemed to be even more excited. The corner of the dealer's mouth raised slightly. Place your bets, open. The moment the dice appeared, the dealer was already ready to collect the money on the table. However, the surrounding people were in an uproar. What? Oh my god, this dog shit luck is too good. Fuck, is this for real? The dealer's heart was also a little proud. Although 3 twos weren't very easy to shake, with his ability, it naturally wasn't a problem. These people didn't need to be so surprised. A little worship was enough. He actually opened 3 sixes, 100 times. This kid's dog shit luck is too good. 100 bets for 10,000, what fucking luck. What 3 sixes? The dealer himself was also shocked, but when he lowered his head to look, his expression changed. How was this possible? The 3 dice in his hand were all sixes. Not a single 2. How was this possible? How could something go wrong with his own hands? But this was the reality. However, on the surface, the dealer still won. After all, Li Zongjiu only bet 100 gold coins. The rest of the people were all killed. Fortunately, nothing went wrong. If Li Zongjiu had bet 10,000 gold yuan at this moment, then the situation would be terrible. It was equivalent to losing 1,000,000 gold yuan on this platform. Chapter 338. Seeing Li Zongjiu pocketing the 10,000 gold coins, many people's eyes turned red. They had also placed bets of 3 to 500, but Li Zongjiu's luck was too good. Li Zongjiu did not show any emotion when he received the money. He glanced at the odds and finally placed the money on the 3 sixes. And it was all of them. He had just won 10,000 gold coins, and in the blink of an eye, he placed all of them. How was this gambling? He was clearly venting his anger. He's either a madman or an idiot. When the surrounding people saw Li Zongjiu's actions, they could not help but shake their heads. It was better not to bet recklessly with this kid. Otherwise, if something went wrong, it would be troublesome. In a while, they would lose all of their capital. Place your bets. The dealer had already begun to shake the dice in his hand. Big, big, big. Small. 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 His voice got louder and louder. The dealer was slightly pleased with himself. This time, he definitely did not lose his hand. 2, 3, 4, small. The moment he opened the dice, the dealer felt that his eyes were going blind. The lid in his hand could not help but fall to the ground. No. This is impossible. The crowd was in an uproar. No one dared to believe that what was in front of them was real. It was real. 3 sixes. In the blink of an eye. Li Zongjiu's 10,000 gold coins became 1,000,000. One must know that at the beginning, Li Zongjiu had only placed 100 gold coins. With this 1,000,000 gold coins, he could play however he wanted. Of course, he had to be frugal. His life would be much easier. This was the charm of a casino. It could make you a winner in life overnight. However, it was also possible to fall into a valley. Li Zongjiu was one of those lucky people. Now that he had 1,000,000 gold coins in his hand, it was enough for Li Zongjiu to stop. The dealer was also covered in cold sweat. Even his hands were trembling. They worked here for a commission. On this stage, the money they won every day would be deducted by 1,000th. Moreover, there was a limit to the amount of money they could lose at each table. If they exceeded this limit, they would have to compensate for the losses of the casino. If they could not afford it, they would have to wait for their limbs to be broken. 1 million was already the dealer's limit. If he continued to lose, he would lose his life. He did not dare to continue to bet. He quickly signaled someone in the distance. Then, a man in dark clothes slowly walked over. Hee, everyone, have a good time. I haven't played in a long time, so I'll play with everyone. I will accompany you all. The man had thick eyebrows and a golden tooth in his mouth. When he smiled, the golden tooth seemed to reveal a trace of cold light. Some people could already see that the casino was here to deal with Li Zongjiu. One must know that the casino opened its doors to do business. Of course, they could not directly drive people away. If you won a small amount, there would be no problem. However, if you played tricks and cheated, there would be plenty of ways to deal with you. If the dealer was not good, another gambling master would be replaced. It's Third Master Genia. I didn't expect Third Master Genia to personally take action. This is going to be a good show. This Third Master Genia mingled in various big casinos in his early years and almost never lost. Later, I heard that he lost in the Boyu casino. The boss did not directly chop off his fingers, but let him stay and watch the show. So that's how it is. I was wondering where Third Master Genia had been all these years. The Boyu casino had a golden license. Of course, they would invite some experts to hold the fort. That Third Master Genia rolled up his sleeves. There was also a leopard tattoo on his thick arm. A pair of leopard eyes were staring at Li Zongjiu. Even when everyone saw the leopard tattoo on the sleeve, they exclaimed in their hearts. It was a kind of creepy feeling. 1 million. Li Zongjiu did not care. It was the same no matter who came. He did not come here for the money. In other words, the most important thing was not money. When Li Zongjiu pushed the chip of 1 million on the 3 sixes, Third Master Genia's face showed a sinister smile. Third Master Genia's face also showed a trace of a sinister smile. How could there be nothing fishy about betting on 3 times? But a real master would tell you that he cheated, but you couldn't find any evidence, so there was nothing you could do about it. This was the best method, and Genia-san's method had to be better than Li Zongjiu's. These dice are too light. Change it. Genia-san said. Immediately, someone replaced the wooden dice with golden dice. The golden light shone brightly, making the surrounding people drool. Just these 3 dice alone were worth a lot. In this round, no one dared to bet with Li Zongjiu. They just watched quietly. Everyone knew that Li Zongjiu would lose, but they were also looking forward to the appearance of a miracle. Of course, now was the matter between Li Zongjiu and the other party. What needed to be solved was the grudge between the casino and Li Zongjiu. If they rashly got involved, they would be regarded as a group. In the end, they would not have a good ending. Ha! Third Master Genia shouted. The power in his body was circulating, pouring into his arm. His arm instantly shook the dice cup in his hand. It kept shaking. Everyone only felt that the cup was releasing a golden aura, which was coming towards them. Clang clang clang, clang clang clang. A crisp and pleasant sound was heard. Third Master Genia's hand shook in the air, creating afterimages. Gusts of wind blew, making the surrounding people nervous. Seeing Third Master Genia's means, they were extremely impressed. It's really powerful. Those 3 golden dice are at least 1 gene and 8 tails. With such an arm strength and the intensity of the shaking, the speed is terrifying. The surrounding people were talking about it. Li Zongjiu was sitting quietly. Suddenly, Third Master Genia slammed the cup in his hand on the table with a bang. Place your bets. Open. Third Master Genia was very satisfied with his performance this time. This kind of smooth operation was impossible for ordinary people to learn. Therefore, when this move landed, Third Master Genia was very confident. 2 5s, 1 6. Third Master Genia opened the lid in his hand. At this moment, he was ready to welcome the applause of the crowd. But when the answer was revealed, the whole audience was silent. The surrounding onlookers also opened their mouths in surprise, looking at the final result on the table. Third Master Genia also felt that the surrounding atmosphere was a bit strange. The moment he looked down, he was so shocked that he almost spat out the big golden tooth in his mouth. What? This is impossible! Third Master Genia roared. This was the result of his own shaking. You cheated! Third Master Genia pointed at Li Zongjiu and roared. Oh! Do you have evidence? If you don't, you know the rules. Li Zongjiu knocked on the table lightly. This time, I won't argue with you. Let's continue. The so-called rules. If you accuse the other party of being a cheater but can't produce effective evidence in the end, then you have to pull out a tooth and cut off a finger. After all, he was an adult, so he had to be responsible for what he said. Indeed, even if he wanted to cheat, only he, Third Master Genia, could cheat. After all, these things were in his hands. Moreover, Li Zongjiu also bet in advance, not after Third Master Genia rolled out the numbers. This way, the difficulty of cheating would be even higher. But Third Master Genia knew. This Li Zongjiu, there was definitely something wrong with him. Third Master Genia secretly glanced upstairs. A man wearing a purple robe nodded slowly. Third Master Genia took a deep breath, cheered himself up, and prepared for another round. 1 million gold coins. 100 times. 100 million. 100 million gold coins. It was placed in front of Li Zongjiu. No one dared to believe their eyes. That was an entire 100 million gold coins. No one dared to believe it. The chips in their hands had already been converted into 10 million gold coins. A total of 10 pieces were placed in front of Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu did not hesitate at all. He once again pushed all the chips in his hand to the 3 sixes in front of him. Hurry up and roll. Li Zongjiu glanced at the other party. Third Master Genia's eyeballs almost fell out. Even his hands were trembling. He touched the dice cup in front of the table. Even he, Third Master Genia, had never experienced such a scene. 100 million gold coins. The odds were 100 times. 10 billion gold coins. Even if it was converted to purple yuan, it was still 100 million purple yuan. The income of the Great Joy Casino in one night was equivalent to this amount. This was when it was relatively popular. Some activities could achieve this kind of income. More and more people came to watch the game. It was obviously just a small gambling table in the hall, but it seemed to be a top-level gambling game. This teenager used 100 gold coins, and in just 3 rounds, he turned it to 100 million. Moreover, he did not stop. It was obvious that they were here for the casino. Chapter 339. Li Zongjiu's appearance had alarmed the manager of the casino. The manager was in the middle of dealing with the upcoming arrival of the Queen of 9 Victories tonight. The Queen of 9 Victories was a big shot in the gambling world. Most importantly, her identity was not simple. Otherwise, she would not have been able to survive until now after winning so much money. Therefore, the Queen of 9 Victories' background was also not simple. I knew someone would come to cause trouble, but I didn't expect him to come so quickly. Where did you find this person? Go and investigate. Genia 3's level is not enough to deal with this person. Go and find Ma Lu. The manager of the casino, Taifai, said in a deep voice. The casino would encounter trouble all year round, so there was nothing to panic about. Even if they really lost 10 billion gold coins, it was not a big deal. They could earn it back in 2 days. But the most important thing was to settle this matter and find out who exactly Li Zongjio was. Only by knowing the root of the problem could they solve the root of the problem. Taifai stood on the second floor, looking down. Jinya 3 had finished shaking the dice, but he did not dare to open it. He placed his hand on the dice cup and looked at Li Zongjio's calm eyes. He already had a bad feeling in his heart. Sure enough. Hee, old 3, go to the back and rest. I'll open it for you. An old and slightly hoarse voice rang out, and a stooped figure walked out. Lu Yi. When Jinya 3 saw the old man coming, it was as if he had been relieved. When his whole body relaxed, he almost fainted. This kind of pressure was too strong, and not many people could withstand it. This was also because Jinya 3 was here. After all, if he opened it, it was very likely that he would lose 10 billion gold coins. Even if his hands and feet were chopped off, it would not be worth it. The old man's appearance could be considered as saving his life. The old man who appeared was not an ordinary person. He was casually wearing a white coat, black trousers, and a pair of cloth shoes. There was a tobacco pouch hanging from his waist, but there was no tobacco pipe in sight. Li Zongjio felt a bit of pressure from the old man. Finally, an expert had arrived. However, his strength could only be said to be average. At most, he had the strength of a 5th-grade origin grandmaster. Compared to Li Zongjio, he could not pose any threat. That young man isn't feeling well. I'll take over this round. Is there any problem? As you wish. Li Zongjio waved his hand and said. Ma Lu smiled faintly, the wrinkles on his face almost sticking together. However, he was not in a hurry to open the results. Instead, he grabbed a handful of tobacco from the tobacco pouch at his waist. There were a few wisps of smoke between his fingers. As he gently rubbed them, a wisp of green smoke rose from his fingers and was completely inhaled by Ma Lu. Hee, sorry, I'm addicted to smoking. I'll open it now. As he spoke, Ma Lu flicked his wrist and instantly flipped open the dice cup on the table. The moment he flipped open the cup, the surrounding people could smell the smoke. The smell of smoke rushed into his mind, and in an instant, he saw the die appear in front of him. What? Ma Lu wanted to hypnotize the people around him and switch the dice, but he realized that his mental energy was unable to move the dice in front of him. It was as if the dice were fixed in place. The moment he forced the dice, he immediately felt a wave of energy from his mental energy. It seemed to have rushed into Ma Lu's mind. Boom! Ma Lu's mind suddenly buzzed. His whole body seemed to have been shocked silly, and his eyes were in a daze. However, the people around him all burst into cheers and clapped their hands even harder. It was simply too shocking. Li Zongjio won again. 10 billion gold coins. From the initial 100 gold coins, it had multiplied by 100 million. How did he get such a number? 10 billion gold coins. Even Ma Lu had failed. Who was this young man? Taifai's eyes flashed coldly when he saw this scene from the second floor. It didn't matter who sent Li Zongjio. Today, he dared to be so arrogant in his territory. There was no way he would let Li Zongjio leave so easily. He had to make Li Zongjio pay the price. Taifai was just about to order for Li Zongjio to be cleared and brought upstairs for a good talk when a strong fragrance wafted over. Taifai's eyes moved slightly and he immediately looked over. He immediately saw a woman in a long dress. She exuded a seductive aura from head to toe. Her proud figure and slender legs were incomparably attractive. It made one feel as if a scorching aura was slowly rising from her lower abdomen. Half of his shoulders were exposed, and he looked at the scene before him. Tai Feihe also reacted in an instant. The person who had come was none other than the 9 Victories Heaven Empress. So it's the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. When did you arrive? She was already by his side. Tai-Fi still didn't know what his subordinates were doing. However, after seeing the 9 Victories Heaven Queen's figure and aura, it was very normal that his subordinates couldn't stop her. I'm here to see if Supervisor Tai has encountered any problems. The corner of the 9 Victories Heaven Queen's lips curled up slightly. Her face was heavily powdered. Although she wasn't in her prime, her current charming appearance was the kind of posture that many people liked. As she spoke, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen looked at Li Zongjio. She then looked at Ma Lu, who looked as if he was facing a great enemy. She somewhat understood the situation in front of her. It seemed like this matter wasn't easy to solve. Even Master Ma Lu had taken action, but it still wasn't resolved. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen was slightly surprised. I did meet a troublesome kid. But don't worry, Heaven Queen. I'll send someone to deal with him. It won't affect tonight's game. Tai-Fi said indifferently. No need. It's been a long time since I met an expert. Today is a good time to give it a try. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen bit her lips lightly. She seemed to be very interested in a little fresh meat like Li Zongjio. After speaking, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen walked down the stairs. There was a commotion in the crowd. Sir. Should we stop him? A subordinate came up to Tai-Fi and asked. The 9 Victories Queen of Heavens wasn't a member of their casino. She was only invited to help with publicity. However, if the 9 Victories Queen of Heavens represented them and deliberately lost to Li Zongjio, then the casino would be the one paying in the end. So what if the two of them were in cahoots? Based on that kid's character, he would probably bet the 10 billion. It's the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen is here. Oh my God, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen is exactly the same as the girl of my dreams. You're shameless. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen stood in front of Ma Lu. Even Ma Lu couldn't back down. After all, in the gambling world, Ma Lu was considered the second level. However, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen was the first level expert. Little guy, how about I accompany you to play? After saying that, the 9 Victories Heaven Queen winked at Li Zongjio. She was extremely flirtatious. Any normal man wouldn't be able to stand it. However, Li Zongjio wasn't an ordinary man. When he saw this scene, he didn't make any movements. Instead, he slowly put away the chips on the table. I've played enough for today. In a few days, I'll be back. At that time, it won't be just a little. Li Zongjio stood up and said. Then, he raised his head and looked at Tai Feihe who was upstairs. Then, he pointed at the chips in his hand. Thank you. Li Zongjio directly took the 10 billion chips and walked to the exchange counter. As for the 9 Victories Heaven Queen, Li Zongjio didn't care at all. What's the point of paying attention to such an old woman? She's disgusting. The people at the exchange counter didn't dare to act rashly. Instead, they asked for instructions from Tai-Fi upstairs. Tai-Fi nodded. 10 billion. They could afford to lose. With so many people here tonight, they couldn't directly kill Li Zongjio. However, they had to find out the kid's identity first. 10 billion. In the end, the other party gave him 100 gold yuan notes. Each note was worth 1 million gold yuan. All of them were placed in a box and handed to Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio turned around and left the Broad Delight Casino. The 9 Victories Heaven Queen looked at Li Zongjio's back as he left. Her lips curled into a playful smile. Although there was a smile in her eyes, it was filled with danger. In Royal City, no one had ever disrespected her. Li Zongjio was the first person to disrespect her. Although he was just a little boy, it was a provocation and even an insult to the 9 Victories Heaven Queen. How dare he insult her charm? Then, I'll let you have a taste of my power. Chapter 340. Li Zongjiu easily walked away with 10 billion gold coins. This night's harvest was indeed a lot. If the Li family were to sell some low-level elixirs, it would take a long time to accumulate so much money. However, this method was not suitable. If he was addicted to gambling, sooner or later, he would encounter an expert. The reason why Li Zongjiu was able to win so easily was naturally due to his mental strength. The two people in front of him, Genius San, should be good at gambling. However, if he encountered a mental strength expert, he basically had no chance and was easily beaten. Although Ma Lu had some skills, this strength was far from enough in front of Li Zongjiu. It was easy to defeat him. However, the appearance of the old woman also made Li Zongjiu feel the threat of the other party. In terms of killing, Li Zongjiu had 10,000 ways to kill this person. However, on the gambling table, he really did not dare to make any guarantees, so he directly stopped. However, in the Boyu casino, Li Zongjiu was bound to win. No one could protect him. When he returned to the Heavenly Star Medicine Mansion in the middle of the night, the Boyu casino did not send anyone to follow him. Otherwise, the result would only be a few more corpses. Hey, what is this? An outdoor activity in the incandescent mountain? Li Zongjiu saw a notice board under the dormitory. A line of words was clearly written on the board. The meeting time and the task content were very clear. The incandescent mountain. If I remember correctly, it should be a flaming mountain now. If I use the power of the flames in the core, it will definitely be able to temper my body. Li Zongjiu suddenly thought. Although it was said that under normal circumstances, it was very good to improve one's strength. However, if Li Zongjiu did not go easy, it was really rare for him to be hit. Letting Li Zongjiu deliberately take a beating was indeed a bit of a crazy idea. Taking poison was also a method. However, as time passed, Li Zongjiu's body became stronger and stronger, the effect became less and less obvious. As for some extreme training, it was also a good idea to use the place where the terrifying origin energy gathered to temper the body's strength. For example, in a place like the incandescent mountain. It could also be used to temper the body. He was only focused on training and forgot about these things. The main thing was that when he was busy, it was hard to remember these things. Li Zongjiu originally had no interest in this kind of outdoor activity, but now. So, he decided to take a trip. After all, the incandescent mountain was under the jurisdiction of the imperial city. But outside of the city, there was a troop stationed in the mountain. This troop was called the Vermilion Army. Troops who had gathered a large amount of fire elemental energy to train. However, if the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor wanted to come, the Vermilion Bird Army would definitely welcome them and open the door wide. Li Zongjiu, who had won 100 million purple yuan, was cultivating in his own room. For Li Zongjiu, the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was only for the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. The reason why he stayed in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was so that he could enter the territory of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor and experience it. The prerequisite was that his strength had reached a certain level. If one wants to clear the first 14 floors of the Genius Tower and solve these difficult problems, one's elemental energy needs to be at least at the peak of the Sky Origin Ancestor level. Li Zongjiu had made a small breakthrough. However, he was only a second-grade Sky Origin Ancestor. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry. However, it had been a thrilling night for the Great Delight Casino. Tai Feihe was extremely grateful to the 9 Victory Celestial Queen for her help. If it hadn't been for the 9 Victory Celestial Queen, the other party wouldn't have left so easily. It was obvious that they had chosen to retreat after sensing the 9 Victory Celestial Queen's strength. Based on the information that Taifei had gathered, this kid's name was Li Zongjiu. Although Taifei didn't know where Li Zongjiu had come from, the fact that he was the first place on the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's freshman roll this year was enough to pose a threat. Being able to obtain such a ranking was already very impressive. Who knew what sort of arrogant power was supporting him? Since you are the first place on the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor's freshman roll, I will give you some face. I hope that you will know when to stop. Tai-Fai thought to himself. If Li Zongjio came to cause trouble again, Tai-Fai wouldn't be polite. Everyone knew that the Yi family was behind the Great Delight Casino. No one dared to offend the Yi family of the Sacred Flame Imperial City. No matter who was behind the Yi family would be able to take care of them. That kid will definitely come back. The Empress of 9 Victories, Pan Shi, arrived in front of Tai-Fai and spoke indifferently. What do you mean? Tai-Fai frowned. He was in charge of managing the casino. All he needed to do was make money. However, he wasn't good at gambling. He was better at killing people. His eyes don't look like a gambler's. Pan Shi said indifferently. There was also a great interest in Li Zongjio in his eyes. Not a gambler's eyes. What do you mean? He won 10 billion in my casino. Isn't he a gambler? Tai-Fai suddenly said. When he thought of the 10 billion gone down the drain, he couldn't wait to capture Li Zongjio and skin him alive. In his casino, there was only profit. There would never be a loss. If the casino was losing money, Tai-Fai wouldn't be sitting here. Even if Li Zongjio took away 10 billion gold coins, Tai-Fai would have earned the money back by the end of the night. With the reputation of the Empress of 9 Victories, he could easily get the money back. He only wanted to win. Or rather, he didn't come for the money. Pan Shi closed her eyes and recalled Li Zongjio's eyes. He was so calm. From the beginning to the end, his eyes didn't fall on any chips or dice. There was only a hint of playfulness. Therefore, the Empress of 9 Victories knew that Li Zongjio wasn't here for the money, nor was he here to gamble. If he's not here for the money, then he's here for me. The next time I meet this person, I won't let him go so easily. My Great Joy Casino has been in business for so many years. How could any Tom, Dick, or Harry destroy it? At this point, Tai-Fai's face was full of murderous intent. Clearly, Tai-Fai was not someone to be trifled with. It did not matter if you were to cause trouble elsewhere, but if you were to find Tai-Fai, then even if you were under the feet of the Emperor, he would still have a way to cut you into 1,000 pieces. Pan Shi didn't say much, but she was curious. What kind of person could have such a gaze? She was very curious. Early morning, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. There were already a few people gathered in the square. Some had just woken up from a dream, while others were still sleepy. In the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, some of the rules were quite strict. After all, this wasn't an ordinary school. They never rejected students. Moreover, they didn't lack good students. If you weren't obedient enough, then you could only be asked to leave. That was how domineering it was. There were plenty of geniuses. It didn't matter if you were there or not. Therefore, under such circumstances, there were very few people who dared to not attend class like Li Zongjio. Only the first and second years participated in the outdoor activities this time. There were about 500 people in total. The third years were basically trying to break through to the next realm. At this time, there weren't any classes. They only needed to complete their final assessment. The fourth years were basically staying in the Genius Pavilion, preparing to tackle difficult problems. The competition for the top 10 spots on the alchemist ranking was very intense. Everyone was unwilling to be outdone. They weren't even willing to take half a step back. It was all for the sake of the rankings. If you didn't move forward, then it was the same as moving backward. Because others would constantly move forward. In addition, there were some who were sick or took leave for special reasons. Therefore, there were only about 500 teachers and students participating in the outdoor activities. Li Zongjio came to the square. The surrounding people were basically chatting in twos and threes. As the sun rose, the number of people in the courtyard gradually increased. A ferocious gaze was fixed on Li Zongjio. At this moment, He couldn't wait to pick up the brick on the ground and smash it on Li Zongjiu's head. And the source of this angry light was Murong Jian. "Senior brother Murong, it's that Li Zongjiu. That brat actually dared to appear. I thought that he was hiding in the dormitory and didn't dare to come out." Murong Jian was already rubbing his fists. He was waiting to teach Li Zongjiu a lesson. As for Li Zongjiu, he closed his eyes and rested. In his mind, he was reading the prose of the White God. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Li Zongjiu and blocked the sunlight. "Are you Li Zongjiu, junior brother Li?" Chapter 341. Junior brother Li. Li Zongjiu opened his eyes. Who was this guy who dared to take advantage of him? He really thought highly of him. How dare he call him junior brother? Standing in front of Li Zongjiu was a handsome young man, who was a few years older than Li Zongjiu. His hair was neatly trimmed, and his eyebrows were sharp like swords. His figure was also tall and sturdy. He was simply a model of a talented person with a graceful demeanor. At the same time, there was a friendly smile on his face. "I'm Sima Chun, from the B class of the Heavenly STEM faculty," Sima Chun said with a gentle smile. Coupled with the faint herbal fragrance on his body, this was a fragrance pouch that he specially made. Basically, any girl would like this smell. Therefore, Sima Chun usually carried this fragrance pouch with him. Sima Chun. That would be someone from the Sima family. The Sima family was in charge of the special envoys in the country. There were countless experts and their influence was very far-reaching. Sima Chun's position in the family was not low. He was considered one of the more outstanding direct disciples. The reason why Sima Chun had sought out Li Zongjiu was because he had heard that Li Zongjiu was closely related to Yi Guxing's death. On top of that, the Sima clan had suffered an all-out counterattack from the Yi clan. Some of their members had also suffered a heavy blow. They had been ambushed by Yilan Tian many times in the open and in the dark. There were even quite a number of people who had been directly killed. However, the Sima family was not a pushover. Recently, they were also preparing for a counterattack. As a member of the Sima family, Sima Chun was also trying his best to come up with a solution. Since the Yi family wanted to kill Li Zongjiu, why not pull Li Zongjiu to his side? Therefore, Sima Chun took the initiative to come and get in touch with Li Zongjiu. Not to mention whether Li Zongjiu could create a lot of value, the Yi family was already uncomfortable with his faction. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. At least, that was what Sima Chun thought. Who's your junior brother? Who's smiling at you? Get lost. Li Zongjiu said directly, not giving Sima Chun any face. Sima Chun was famous for his mild temper. Even if someone pointed at his nose and scolded him, he wouldn't get angry. Instead, he would talk to you calmly. Scolding people was wrong, but no one knew what he would do behind their backs. Now that Sima Chun was here, he couldn't react to Li Zongjiu's words. How could someone be so rude? He must have heard wrongly. Sima Chun thought to himself. After all, it was still early in the morning and no one was awake yet. I'm Sima Chun, also from the Heavenly Gone Court. I'm a year older than you, I'm your mother. Do I know you well? Go away, you're blocking my son. Li Zongjiu waved his hand. His voice was very loud. Sima Chun's expression became quite awkward after hearing it. Now that he heard it clearly, Li Zongjiu didn't seem to like hearing that he was older than him. However, he couldn't just ask him to get lost. Junior brother Li, I heard that you've caused a lot of trouble. Although my Sima family isn't a famous family, it's not a problem for us to solve some ordinary problems. If you're willing to cooperate with us, you said that you can help me solve the problem, right? Li Zongjiu suddenly said. Sima Chun had thoroughly understood the saying, don't slap a smiling person. His skin was so thick that even Li Zongjiu was helpless against him. Li Zongjiu had no choice but to talk to him nicely. Of course, I'm not bragging, but there's no problem in King City that I can't solve. Sima Chun said until here, stopping his waist. At this moment it was as if the radiance was shining on Sima Chun's body. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but touch his nose. A grown man actually using such a fragrant pouch. I'm really impressed. Hey, there's a bitch called Murong over there. Help me settle it. Otherwise, he'll definitely kill me. Li Zongjiu said. Sima Chun was also confused. Murong bitch? There's actually such a person in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. He's been here for a year, but he's never heard of anyone with that name. But speaking of Murong, there's only one person with the surname Murong. Sima Chun turned around and immediately saw Murong Jian standing not far away. At this moment, Murong Jian's body was shrouded in a haze. At the same time, killing intent was released from his body, faintly enveloping Li Zongjiu. If there weren't so many people around, Murong Jian would definitely pounce on Li Zongjiu and tear Li Zongjiu into pieces. Only then would he be able to relieve the hatred in his heart. When Sima Chun saw Murong Jian, he instantly understood that the Murong bitch Li Zongjiu was talking about was Murong Jian. Although Murong Jian's name sounded a little murderous, adding the word person to it was indeed a little strange. However, no one had ever dared to use Murong Jian's name as a joke. Murong Jian represented the Murong Wangfu. In the Murong Wangfu, there was a Murong Wangfu, a Yuan king elite. If he heard that his own name was being used as a joke, even if he was skinned alive, what could he do? Oh my god, do you have a grudge against Murong Jian? When Sima Chun saw Murong Jian, he was instantly terrified. One had to know that Murong Jian was an expert ranked 12th on the alchemy master list. Most importantly, Murong Jian was only in his second year. In 2 years, rushing to the top 10 of the alchemy master list wasn't difficult at all. Who would dare to offend someone with such extraordinary potential? With a Yuan King elite backing him, who would dare to offend him? Okay. Just pretend that I wasn't here. Sima Chun waved his hands. If he stood together with Li Zongjiu and caused Murong Jian to misunderstand, the problem would be serious. Morning, Li Zongjiu. Hey, isn't that Sima Chun? Do the two of you know each other? Kuan Erasher walked over to Li Zongjiu. He took the initiative to greet him, but when he saw that Li Zongjiu didn't seem to have any intention of paying attention to him, he just continued talking. Oh, right. Yesterday, you didn't go to class. The form teacher asked me to tell you to be careful in the future and not cause trouble for her. However, let me tell you, our form teacher's figure is really hot. I just don't know what her temper is like. If it's very fiery, then I probably won't have a chance. I prefer the cute and lovable type. Lon Kun muttered to himself. At the same time, he was thinking about yesterday's class. Oh. My temper is very fiery. Li Zongjiu had already retreated a long time ago. Before Kuan Erasher approached, he had already sensed an aura. However, Kuan Erasher didn't seem to have sensed it. He was still daydreaming and imagining something. He saw a young lady in her 20s wearing a light purple dress and a pair of fiery red boots. One look and one could tell that these boots were a rather powerful origin artifact. Not really. Kuan Erasher replied instinctively. However, the moment he said this, he realized that something was wrong. He turned around and saw Ling Yan standing behind him. He had a faint smile on his face as he sent a kick flying. Bang! Lon Kun was sent flying by the kick. He flew for nearly 50 meters before landing on his butt. There was no room for discussion for this kick. Even if Kuan Erasher was prepared, he definitely wouldn't be able to block this move. Li Zongjiu shook his head helplessly. It was really hard on this kid. You are Li Zongjiu. Ling Yan retracted her leg and tidied up her clothes. Raising her leg so high in front of everyone was indeed a little bad. She glanced at Li Zongjiu indifferently. This kid seemed to be hard to deal with. However, under her, Ling Yan, there wasn't anyone who couldn't be taught. Chapter 342. Seeing someone fly out, the students present were all shocked. When they saw the person who attacked, they all understood what had happened and silently moved their bodies into the distance. If he accidentally offended her, he would be in for a treat. This lady's fiery temper wasn't just for show. These second-year students all knew of a legend. It was this little grandaunt who had once beaten up a prince to the point where he had to be hospitalized. How could someone who could do such a thing be simple? This lady's background was quite terrifying. Not only was she the granddaughter of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's master, even the current emperor loved and doted on her. Entering and leaving the palace was as simple as entering and exiting her own home. After kicking Kun Erishur, Ling Yan looked at Li Zongjiu. Hearing Ling Yan's question, Li Zongjiu nodded. Yes. There was nothing wrong with admitting his name. However, if this lady in front of him wanted to make a move, Li Zongjiu wouldn't be polite. Let's see who has the upper hand. Just now, Kun Erishur should have told you that I am your class teacher. If anything happens to you, I will be responsible. So, you better not cause trouble for me. I know your talent is very good, but in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, there are many more people who are more talented than you. Don't be arrogant and complacent. Ling Yan wanted to kill Li Zongjiu's momentum. Otherwise, if there was any work to be done, this Li Zongjiu wouldn't cooperate well. It was his first time being a class teacher, so of course he had to do it well. Even if there were only 2 students, he had to make them stand out. This was what a class teacher should do. As long as they don't provoke me, there won't be a problem. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Speaking in such a manner, it was clearly saying that everything was the fault of others. He wouldn't be wrong. Even if he beat someone up, it was the other person who provoked him first. Don't worry. If anyone dares to look for trouble and provoke you, you can beat them back. If they dare to weaken the prestige of my heavenly STEM course, then you can scram as well. Ling Yan said. With that sharp and spirited gaze, probably not many people would dare to confront Ling Yan. Although she tried her best to be a responsible class teacher and wanted to be a role model, she still could not change her character of getting physical and killing when she encountered problems. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but feel amused. This little girl's personality was quite straightforward. When Li Zongjiu came to the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, it was already more than 2,000 years later. Even if Ling Yan was not dead, he should be in a state of seclusion. Only when one's cultivation reached the Supreme Being realm would one be able to break through the 3,000 years of lifespan. Even in the primitive Emperor realm, one could only live for 2,000 years. This would depend on the cultivation of the elemental formula. Some primitive Emperor realm experts could only live for about 1,000 years. Therefore, there were very few people who could survive for 3,000 years. Even before the age of 2,000, Li Zongjiu was in a state of cultivation and rarely interacted with the outside world. It was only after he became famous by luck and became a pinnacle expert and broke through the Supreme Being realm that he began to move around the continent more frequently. Because Li Zongjiu knew of higher realms, he was also searching for higher realms and levels with all his heart. Rubbing his butt, Kun Erishur limped back and came to Li Zongjiu. At this moment, Ling Yan was also walking towards the group of teachers. SSS, you don't say. This temper is not ordinary. Kun Erishur said with a grimace. Obviously, that move was quite powerful and Kun Erishur could not bear it. His body also flew out involuntarily. Li Zongjiu was too lazy to look at Kun Erishur. If you didn't act tough, he wouldn't have beaten you up. He did not expect Kun Erishur to have such a personality that deserved a beating. Li Zongjiu did not expect this at all. He was simply a chatterbox. Hey, I saw that girl staring at you for a long time. Do you have a grudge? Kun Erasure nudged Li Zongjiu with his shoulder, which made Li Zongjiu frown. However, he didn't say anything. He followed Lan Kun's line of sight and saw Gongjiu, who had a ponytail, waving at him. It seemed like she was greeting him. However, there were a few girls beside Gongjiu who were also chattering, so they did not come over. Have your sister. Li Zongjiu said. The plaza with more than 500 people was bustling with noise and excitement. However, when a voice rang out in the plaza, everyone could not help but quiet down. Then, a figure appeared in the plaza. Li Zongjiu remembered this person. It was the recruitment director at that time, Director Shang Diqing. Shang Diqing stood on the high platform. Every class, do a head count. Teachers, report to me. After the head count is done, you can board the sky-shaking ship. Sky-shaking ship. Every time they went out, it would go against the low-key nature of the Heaven Star Medicine Manor. Therefore, every time they went out, they would use the sky-shaking ship to carry people. It was a low-key way to go out. It was also a more covert and efficient way. The sky-shaking ship produced by the Zheng family of the Jade Wave Giant City was indeed a powerful weapon. The first to board the ship was Li Zongjiu and the other two. There were only 3 people in total, so the head count was naturally fast. Ling Yan walked in front, bringing Li Zongjiu and Kun Erasure onto the ship. There were more than 1,000 seats in the cabin. You two stay in this cabin. Don't cause trouble for my people. If someone comes to provoke you, don't lose face for me. Ling Yan said as he turned around and walked up the stairs. There was another cabin on the higher floor. It was for the teachers. The treatment was indeed different. Presumably, the seats on the higher floor would be better. Teacher, don't worry. Kun Erasure said with a smile. He knew that Li Zongjiu did not like to talk. Ling Yan did not seem to intend to listen to their reply. Therefore, after Kun Erasure finished speaking, no one responded. The scene was a little awkward. The two of them waited for a while. Then, another group of people came up. This time, there were a total of 5 people. Teacher, please. Of the 5 people who came up, the one in the lead looked young and handsome. He was full of talent. The accessories on his body were also quite low-key and expensive. That person did not look back and directly walked up to the second floor. He was also a teacher. The other 4 people waited until that teacher had completely gone upstairs and could not be seen. Then, they got up and walked towards Li Zongjiu and Ling Yan. You two, go sit in the back. One of them walked up with an arrogant face. The front row seats were more comfortable. At the same time, it was a symbol of status. And the symbol on their chest was the symbol of the Heavenly STEM A class. They were all second-year students of the Heavenly STEM A class. Kun Erasure looked at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu did not respond. Then, he did not respond either. He just looked out the window. I'm talking about you two. 2 new students, you actually dare to sit in the first row. Impudent. As he said that, one of them stretched out his leg and kicked towards Li Zongjiu's leg. Chapter 343. Li Zongjiu, who was sitting down, had yet to make a move. Kun Erasure took the lead and kicked out, blocking the kick. Bang! The person who kicked out immediately took a step back. You're courting death. After being forced back by Kun Erasure, the person was instantly enraged. He wanted to cripple Kun Erasure, but he was stopped by his companions. There were so many people behind them. If they were to make a move now, wouldn't it be against the rules of the academy? You 2 first years are very arrogant. I hope that you can be so arrogant when you reach the White Blaze Mountain. Although the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor is safe, the number of students who die outside every year is not small. A person walked forward with a sinister smile on his face. There was a black mole the size of a mung bean under the corner of his mouth. It was disgusting to look at. Originally, these people were prepared to leave after speaking and temporarily did not care about it. But when they were leaving, Li Zongjiu suddenly stretched out his leg and kicked the last person. Bang! 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 The four people collided and fell one after another, lying on each other's bodies. This scene was seen by some of the girls who had just come up and they all covered their eyes. My eyes, my eyes. So embarrassing, I can't believe I did such a thing. The few people who had fallen to the ground were filled with shame and indignation. They clenched their fists and wished they could throw a punch at Li Zongjiu's face. However, Li Zongjiu calmly turned his head and looked at these people as he spoke indifferently. You should be careful when you walk. There are many people who fall to their deaths every year in the mainland. It seemed like a kind reminder, but it made those people furious. You have guts. In the end, they sat down angrily because the people who were coming up the ship one after another also had to walk through this passage and sit at the back. Even Li Zongjiu shook his head helplessly. After 3,000 years of cultivation in his previous life, he thought that he had already become an old man. However, now that he had been reborn, he seemed to have regained his youthful mentality and made such a childish move. If someone knew Li Zongjiu's mental age, they would definitely think that Li Zongjiu was an old urchin. Very quickly, Morong Jian and the rest also boarded the boat. When they saw Li Zongjiu sitting in the first row, their eyes were filled with disdain. It was as though they were saying, "You can show off now. Wait till we reach the White Blaze Mountain, we'll make you suffer." As the saying goes, geniuses are envied by others. If you displayed talent and strength that was much stronger than ordinary people, you would often be out of place in a big environment. Junior brother Li, junior brother Lon. Sima Chun also greeted the two of them, mainly because Sima Chun had been greeting people along the way. Most of the people responded because of this face, plus Sima Chun's strength wasn't weak. He was quite a popular person. Gong Jiu also came up and winked at Li Zongjiu. When the surrounding sisters saw Li Zongjiu, they also threw a few flirtatious glances. They were already second-year students and had seen many things. What's more, Heavenly Star Medicine Manor didn't have a rule that forbade cross-year relationships. Although Li Zongjiu was young, his cold personality made people very fond of him. They couldn't help but want to take a few more glances at him. Hey, did you see that? Those sisters just winked at me. Koen Erasher seemed a little excited. He was here to make a name for himself. As a future hero, he should first have a beauty in his arms. He should at least have a few beauties by his side to accompany him. Otherwise, how could he become a hero in the future and leave behind some good stories? These were all necessary. Li Zongjiu completely ignored Koen Arashi's narcissism. Although there were many people, the efficiency was relatively high. Soon, all the students were on the sky-shaking ship. With a boom, the sky-shaking ship sped up and charged into the clouds. Whoosh! Its speed was incomparably fast, and it quickly rushed into the clouds. Because Heavenly Star Medicine Manor had already reported before, when they rushed into the clouds, a team of sky guards quickly came to confirm. When the airship reached a certain height, Zhang Tai could see a large number of air cavalries patrolling in the sky which was covered with clouds and mist. After all, some meta beasts lived in the sky. If they accidentally passed by Grand Feast King City and found a lot of food below, they would definitely rush down to eat. The ground might not be useful. By the time they found out, it might be too late. Therefore, there was a need for a layer of defense in the sky. It could be seen that this batch of air troops was relatively powerful. The meta beasts they were riding were all third-level meta beasts comparable to meta generals. Regardless of whether it was attacking or defending, it was the best choice. These air cavalry are really huge. Kuan Erasher looked out of the window at the air cavalry that was escorting the sky-shaking ship. His eyes were filled with envy and amazement. It's all fake. Any 6th-level spectral phoenix will destroy them in less than 2 minutes. Li Zongjiu said faintly. That was indeed the case. A 6th-level meta-beast was equivalent to an Origin Emperor expert. If such a meta-beast suddenly descended from the sky, not many people would be able to resist it. However, there were only a few 6th-level meta-beasts in the entire continent. Meta-beasts that had grown to such a level would definitely have intelligence as long as they weren't born stupid. It wouldn't be a problem for them to talk to humans directly. Rashly attacking a powerful empire was obviously not a wise choice, unless there was a reason behind it. However, if that was the case, there was still room for discussion. It's easy for you to say. A 6th-level meta-beast and a spectral phoenix. I wonder if I can see such a legendary meta-beast before I die. Kuan Erasher said. Anyone who cultivated would think that one day, they would be able to sit on the back of a powerful meta-beast and soar into the sky. They would be able to trample the entire world under their feet. At that time, they would truly be free and unfettered in the world. Now, it was just like in Monarch City. In Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor, they had to be obedient. If they were careless and offended someone, they would be in big trouble. Therefore, Ling Yan had been emphasizing that they had to keep a low profile and not cause any trouble. If they really caused any trouble, it would be quite troublesome. In just 15 minutes, the sky-shaking ship began to descend. With a boom, the sky-shaking ship stopped at a certain height. Li Zongjiu and the others walked out of the deck and immediately felt a heatwave sweeping towards them. Whoosh! The heatwave hit them in the face. The surrounding air was mixed with extremely dense fire attribute elemental energy. In the distance, there was a huge, white mountain peak standing tall. On that mountain, there were only some pale white rocks. There were no crops or plants on it. There were only these dry rocks and potholes. This mountain peak was also incomparably huge. It was close to 1,000 feet tall. This was the White Blazing Mountain. Everyone, go down and gather at the location. Director Shang Diqing said. This time, he was the leader of the instructors. Whoosh! Whoosh! The instructors landed one after another. Li Zongjiu and the others also flew down. The sky-shaking ship stopped at a rather high altitude. It was close to 100 meters from the ground. If it went down a little more, it would probably cause a sandstorm. Fortunately, these students were not mediocre. Each of them happily landed on the ground. Some even purposely showed off their operation. The sky-shaking ship also rose into the air and flew towards the distance. It could be considered as leaving and waiting for the designated time to come back. Before disembarking, Director Shang Diqing also used the broadcast on the sky-shaking ship to explain the rules of this outdoor activity clearly. The time limit was 3 days and 3 nights. Within this stipulated time, enter the White Blazing Mountain and search for the medicinal herbs in the herbal book. Whoever brought back the most number of herbs and ranked higher would be considered the winner. The first 3 winners would be rewarded with points. At the same time, the last 3 would have their points deducted as punishment. There were no restrictions. You could form a team of 2 or 3. It was up to you. In the end, it would only depend on the results. Chapter 344. Before the start, everyone was given a herbal book which recorded some of the more difficult to find herbs in Baiji Mountain. They had to search according to the herbs in the book. Moreover, they had to be fresh. Whether they were recently picked or not, they could tell at a glance. The 2 of you listen up. Ling Yan came forward with 2 books in his hand and handed them to Li Zongjiu and Kuan Erasher. Although there are only 2 people in our class, I don't want our class to be ranked lower than the others. You know what I mean. The threat in his eyes was self-evident. There were a total of 16 classes. The class with the least number of people was the first year of Tiangon Department's Class A. Only Li Zongjiu and Kun Erisher were in the class. However, in the other classes, there were more or less 30 people in each class. Some of them had even more. The second class with the least number of people was the second year of Tiangon Department's Class A. But there were 4 of them, and they were all seniors. With such a terrifying difference in numbers, how were they going to fight for victory? This was simply an impossible task. Kun Erisher was preparing to analyze the impossible situation for Ling Yan. This allowed Ling Yan to understand the situation clearly. Otherwise, he would really think that the two of them were immortals. However, Ling Yan's gaze was fixed on Kun Erisher. Within his gentle gaze, there was also a hint of death. If Kun Erisher really said those words, he would probably be kicked again. "I'll do my best, I'll do my best," Kun Erisher immediately said with a smile. There was a trace of stubbornness and determination on his face. He had to persevere. "If the two of you can get first place, I can guarantee that I'll give you a chance to enter the forbidden area before the end of the first half of the semester. You don't need to rely on your ranking on the Pill Alchemist ranking." Ling Yan took a step forward and said in a low voice. Originally, Li Zongjiu didn't care at all. He didn't come here to look for medicinal ingredients, but to borrow the fire attribute essence energy here to break through his ancient golden tyrannical body art. But when he heard Ling Yan's words, even Li Zongjiu's eyelids twitched. "Hit the snake where it hurts." Ling Yan's words hit Li Zongjiu right where it hurt. This was exactly what Li Zongjiu had been dreaming of. "Really?" Li Zongjiu asked for the first time. The longing in his eyes was not an act. Ling Yan also laughed heartily in his heart. He was secretly pleased with himself. "Looks like it's not that unmanageable. I thought that you were really stubborn. From the looks of it now, it was only a so-so. Of course, I'm your form teacher. How could I lie to you?" Ling Yan said proudly. Since he said it out loud, he naturally had the confidence to do it. Otherwise, wouldn't he be throwing his face? Kun Arashi's breathing became hurried. He thought that it would take at least a year to enter the alchemist ranking. After all, there were so many geniuses, and some of them were even more talented than Kun Erisher. In addition, the alchemist ranking was basically filled with the fourth years. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to break through. Therefore, the fastest way to enter the forbidden area of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor would take at least a year or even 2. If Ling Yan really had a way, it could only mean that Ling Yan was really powerful. Everyone wanted to enter the forbidden area to comprehend it properly. Anyone who entered the forbidden area would gain something. Unless you were a complete idiot that couldn't be saved. But such a person wouldn't have the chance to enter the forbidden area. "Alright, it's decided then," Li Zongjiu said. "Good luck, hee. Ling Yan patted the shoulders of the two and revealed a scheming smile. How could it be so easy to get first place? Moreover, the opportunity to enter the forbidden area was only an opportunity. It wasn't a guarantee that one would be able to enter. As long as one was an outstanding student, they would have this opportunity. There were 2 outstanding students in each class, and there were only 2 people in their class. No matter what, it would be the 2 of them. In fact, these things were clearly written in the manual of the academy. However, some people were arrogant and didn't look at it. Therefore, they often missed out on some benefits of the academy. The group in front had already set off. Some people wanted to cultivate alone, while others wanted to get a good result. One could see it in the crowd. The new students were all walking at the back. Mo Su Li and the others were more eye-catching, and they were surrounded by a large group of people. It was as if they were waiting for instructions. Mu Qingyun also loyally guarded Mo Su Li's side. They were all from the A class of the Earth branch. Clearly, their teachers had told them that if they could get a good result this time, they would have the chance to enter the forbidden area. Or some other kind of resources and inducements. Li Zongjio had seen the teacher in charge of the A class of the Earth branch before. It was Yang Xuelin. Let's split up here. Pay attention to your safety. Those people definitely won't give up so easily. Koan Erasher said to Li Zongjio. He was also worried that Li Zongjio would be killed in a while. If that happened, it would be too tragic. Although they were all from the same academy, it was hard to say what would happen. Yes, you should be careful too. Li Zongjio said. They didn't plan to move together. The two of them had their own secrets. Koan Erasher also didn't want his secret to be known by others. It was fine to play together, but it wasn't so good to cultivate together. The two of them chose to split up. Li Zongjio didn't even think as he rushed towards the mountain peak. His figure was like a gust of wind sweeping away fallen leaves. In the blink of an eye, he was already hundreds of meters away. Follow that brat. Don't let him run away. Murong Jian immediately said. At this moment, they were already prepared for this. They were now at the foot of the Baiji mountain. Just the surrounding temperature was enough to make it difficult for people of the Yuan Master Realm to move. Fortunately, these people were able to reach the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Most of them were at the Yuan General Realm. Those who were more talented and walked at the forefront of the cultivation world were those who could reach the Yuan Ancestor Realm. Although the strength of these freshmen hadn't been revealed yet. Mo Suli and Mu Qingyun were most likely experts of the Yuan Ancestor Realm. As freshmen, their strength was catching up to the seniors. In addition, there were two even more monstrous geniuses, Li Zongjio and Koan Erasher. This outdoor training would definitely be very exciting. That guy who stole my cauldron, I've finally found you. Just as Shueiyue was walking, she suddenly saw Li Zongjio flash past her and rush towards the mountain peak. What a guy! This caused Shueiyue to become excited. She had long wanted to find this guy and take revenge. No matter what, this Li Zongjio had embarrassed her, so she had to make this Li Zongjio lose face. At this moment, Shueiyue gave up on looking for herbs and directly chased after Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's speed was very fast, and the surrounding temperature had also risen to a terrifying level. The ground in this area seemed to be close to flat ground, which meant that the altitude was getting higher and higher. At this moment, Li Zongjio was at an extremely high place. There's a good hiding place up ahead. Li Zongjio searched the area and found a stone array. The stone array was able to gather the surrounding temperature. This place is filled with fire elemental energy. Even a Sky Origin Ancestor level expert would find it difficult to last for an incense stick's worth of time here. Li Zongjio felt that the temperature of his skin was rapidly rising. Even so, Li Zongjio still did not use his own elemental energy, but used his physical strength to resist the surrounding temperature. Within the stone array, a natural defensive shield was formed. Li Zongjio sat down cross-legged. He quickly activated the body elemental technique and sucked in the surrounding fire elemental energy. When the fire elemental energy entered his skin, he immediately felt a piercing pain. This piercing pain made Li Zongjio grimace. In the past, it felt like knives were scraping his body. But now, it felt more like red-hot iron rods rolling back and forth on his body. Chapter 345. Shueiyue chased for a long time, but Li Zongjio's figure had long disappeared. She was surrounded by barren mountain roads and the high temperature was spreading all over her body. However, Shueiyue's body seemed to be surrounded by a cold aura that helped her resist the high temperature. Damn it, is that guy a rabbit? He disappeared all of a sudden. Shueiyue was also stomping her feet in anger. Just as she was getting angry, she suddenly saw a mushroom-like thing slowly emerging from under a rock not far away. Hey, I'm so lucky. Isn't this the iron rock mushroom? Shueisha excitedly picked up the small iron shovel in her hand and ran to the bottom of the rock to dig. The iron rock mushroom was a kind of medicinal herb that was difficult to find. It was also one of the top 20 rare medicinal herbs in the herbal medicine booklet. This herbal booklet was actually a ranking of the rare herbs in Mount Baiji. Those herbs that could be listed in this booklet basically had some background. Currently, some of them had been discovered by others, and some of them could only be seen from afar and could not be approached. They were also listed on the booklet. It was very difficult to find the top 10, so it was a very good harvest to be able to find the top 20 iron rock mushrooms. It was currently ranked first and was the most precious medicinal herb that had been discovered. It was called the Scarlet White Lotus. The place where this kind of refinement took place would be a sea of blood, and at the same time, a hell of heavenly fire. Even if one got close to the Scarlet White Lotus, one would fall into the terrifying hell of the Scarlet White Lotus. In the end, many people would be obliterated by the Scarlet White Lotus. This was not only a spiritual medicine, but also a spiritual medicine that could kill people like scything flax. Even if you saw this spiritual medicine, if you did not have enough strength to pick it, then it was best not to go near it. After all, this was not a joke with one's life. Many people were self-confident, and when they found the Scarlet White Lotus, they would often be carried away by it. Therefore, they would rush blindly and lose their lives. Li Zongjiu cultivated in the same place for nearly 6 hours. It was now noon. The temperature was also higher. His skin was instantly scorching hot, as if he was a cooked lobster. No, I'm still a little short. Li Zongjiu's skin had already begun to crack and peel. Under such high temperatures, there was no way to directly recover. Therefore, he had always maintained this state. Keep going up. They were less than 500 meters away from the top of the mountain. If one climbed over the top of the mountain and reached the core of White Blaze Mountain, the temperature would reach a terrifying level. Even Yuan monarchs would not want to stay in such an environment for long. 10,000 meters above the incandescent mountain pass, there was no rain at all. Once any water got close to this place, it would be directly burned away. It evaporated without a trace. Li Zongjiu stood up and continued to walk towards the top of the mountain. This time, he advanced another 100 meters. Compared to the previous temperature, after advancing another 100 meters, the temperature was almost twice the original temperature. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, Li Zongjiu felt that his internal organs were burning fiercely, as if they were about to melt. As for his clothes, they had long been burned away. Li Zongjiu used his yuan power to cover the important parts. Otherwise, he would become an exhibitionist. Let's continue. Li Zongjiu's entire body was charred black, and no part of his body was intact. With every step he took, his entire body felt like it was being torn apart. This kind of pain also made Li Zongjiu feel a strong desire to break through during this process. Just a little bit more, just a little bit more. The ancient golden body of the tyrant dragon was constantly converting the damage it received into power. However, this power had been lingering in his body all this time. Even when he recovered his strength, it wasn't enough for him to consume. He could not make ends meet. Therefore, Li Zongjiu's entire body was still being burned by the fire attribute yuan power. The obsidian flame seemed to have sensed the scorching heat of the surrounding environment and actually joined in the absorption of the fire attributed yuan energy. Li Zongjiu's body, which was the carrier, also suffered extremely terrifying damage. Plop! Just as he was about to reach the top of the mountain, Li Zongjiu could not hold it in and fainted. Without using the slightest bit of elemental energy and just relying on the strength of his body, he was definitely a man to be able to walk to this place. How many people would not be able to reach this place? Even if a Sky Origin Ancestor level expert used his yuan power to maintain his condition, he would not be able to last more than a few hours in such a hot environment. However, fainting in such a place was naturally an extremely dangerous thing to do. This was because there was a high chance that one would not be able to survive. Not far from where Li Zongjiu had fainted, one could see that a white lotus was quietly blooming. Although this lotus was white, its stem was as red as blood. It was quietly extending towards the place where Li Zongjiu had fainted. It was prepared to absorb Li Zongjiu's fresh blood when Li Zongjiu was completely dead. This way, it could become its own nourishment. A stem slowly emerged from the ground and slowly wrapped around Li Zongjiu's body. Sacred Flame Royal City. Lone Moon Palace. Yi Lone Moon had already signed the order for the Hidden Moon Guards to move out. At this moment, 15 Hidden Moon Guards were kneeling on one knee in front of Yi Lone Moon. In their eyes, there was only loyalty. As long as Yi Lone Moon ordered them to kill someone, they would move out to kill that person at any time. This was a realm that ordinary people could achieve. They were a group of death warriors that Yi Lone Moon had raised. They could often help them to solve some difficult and complicated diseases. Listen up, all of you. I don't have enough patience anymore. Tonight, I want to see Li Zongjiu's corpse placed in front of me. I have already informed the Vermilion Bird Army. You can only attack on Incandescent Mountain. Once you leave Incandescent Mountain, you can't attack. Do you hear me clearly? Yi Lone Moon said. After so many days, they were still unable to remove Beiho Liang and Li Zongjiu's heads. Yi Lone Moon could not even lift his head in front of Yilantian. Yes. Master. The 15 Hidden Moon Guards shouted. After the Hidden Moon Guards retreated, another group of people dressed in green walked out. These people were all experts, but they were disguised as such. Usually, they did not move out much, but they were all veterans and their faces were unfamiliar. Beiho Liang will go and meet his lover tonight. You know what to do. There was a knife above the word lust. For a disciple of an aristocratic family like Beiho Liang, he was rich and had connections. It was not a problem for him to casually raise a few girls in the city. After Yi Lone Moon found out about this, he quickly took control of Beiho Liang's favorite mistress and made her invite Beiho Liang to come out. The matters in the city. Yi Lone Moon had already informed his elder sister about this. No one can stop me. The Yi family's great cause will be mine. Yi Lone Moon turned the teacup in his hand. Finally, he squeezed the teacup in his hand and a series of cracking sounds were heard. Chapter 346. Li Zongjiu seemed to be in a muddle-headed state at this moment. Suddenly, he felt a clear current surging through his body. This was the feeling of breaking through one's limit. It was like a very stubborn piece of cowhide that was constantly being pushed back. Suddenly, the limit of the cowhide was broken. It was this feeling of enlightenment that immediately woke Li Zongjiu up from his muddle-headed state. Boom! Suddenly, a large amount of new energy gushed out from the almost dried-up source and poured into Li Zongjiu's body, flowing into every part of his body. His entire body was once again glowing with vitality. When Li Zongjiu opened his eyes, he found that he could not move. It turned out that he was entangled by some blood-rot tan that came from nowhere. It was also these blood-rot tan that gave Li Zongjiu the final blow. At the most critical moment, it directly caused great damage to Li Zongjiu. That was why Li Zongjiu was able to break through his limit. Otherwise, who knew how long it would take for him to break through this realm? Where did this thing come from? Li Zongjiu immediately snorted. The blood-rot tan seemed to have realized that Li Zongjiu had woken up. Immediately, the rattan suddenly tightened, wanting to crush Li Zongjiu directly. However, there was no chance now. Li Zongjiu, who had reacted, immediately released all the energy in his body and instantly shattered the blood rattan. Boom! The blood rattan exploded into pieces that filled the sky. Some of the blood rattan's fresh red juice was sprinkled on Li Zongjiu's body. This juice originally had an extremely high temperature, even more terrifying than magma. However, when it fell on Li Zongjiu's body, it did not even ignite a single strand of his hair. This was because Li Zongjiu's current physical strength had far exceeded the temperature that could melt it. It could not hurt Li Zongjiu. I've broken through. This feels pretty good. But what is this thing? Li Zongjiu saw the blood vine fragments on the ground. He picked up a small piece and sniffed it. There was a faint smell of blood, but at the same time, there was a holy aura. This thing looks familiar. Li Zongjiu immediately took out a small booklet from his bosom. When he flipped it open, he saw the blazing blood white lotus ranked first. Evil on the outside but holy on the inside. What an image. Your so-called holiness is all from the height of the accumulation of blood. It seemed that there were indeed countless treasures on the incandescent mountain. He had found the incandescent white lotus so quickly. Although the blazing white lotus was a plant, it could move freely on blazing mountain with its roots. It was just that its speed was a little slow. However, it was able to conceal its aura, making it impossible for people to find it. By the time Li Zongjiu chased after it again, the blazing blood white lotus had already disappeared without a trace. Trying to escape in front of me? Li Zongjiu grabbed a handful of soil on the ground. His mind power instantly penetrated the ground and immediately found the roots of the blazing blood white lotus. Previously, these blood vines had wanted to absorb Li Zongjiu as nutrients. However, the sudden increase in damage had already prevented Li Zongjiu from breaking through the limits of the ancient golden tyrannical body technique. Now, Li Zongjiu's physical strength alone was enough to fight against a Yuan Zone elite. Compared to his previous life, it was still a little lacking. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had refined a Daoyuo Vajra elixir for himself. After consuming it, his physical strength had soared rapidly and directly broken through the limits of his mortal body. His physical body had the strength of a Yuan monarch elite. However, Li Zongjiu was different now. His physical strength had been honed bit by bit. Therefore, during this process, the power accumulated in Li Zongjiu's body was innumerable. In other words, there was already a lot of hidden potential in Li Zongjiu's body. If it were to erupt, it would be a terrifying level. Just as Li Zongjiu was chasing after the blazing blood white lotus, in the valley, there was also a group of people who were quietly moving forward despite the high temperature. The person leading the group was a woman. She was only wearing a special singlet and a pair of shorts. Her slender legs and forearms were exposed, and her skin was dark brown. Her face was covered with a cloth to help her breathe. If she breathed in the surrounding air directly, it would be too hot. If she breathed it in, it would definitely harm her internal organs. There were 5 people behind her, all of them holding pickaxes and carrying a special rattan basket. "Survey the surroundings," the woman said. She stood on a rock and looked around. At this moment, they seemed to be in the middle of a furnace. There was a dagger at the woman's waist. The dagger was completely black, but it was able to reveal a trace of light. Even in such a hot environment, there was no change. One could even see the cold light emitting from the dagger. Someone used a pickaxe to dig a hole in the ground and grabbed a handful of soil, trying to find some information through the soil. "It's nearby. Be careful, the polar rock snake is extremely good at camouflage." "Yes, Captain." As soon as the words left his mouth, the entire ground began to tremble. The 6 of them immediately became vigilant. Then, they saw the ground burst open and a terrifying figure instantly emerged from the ground. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at one of them. "It's a level 4 polar rock snake. Everyone, be careful." The woman shouted. She instantly pulled out the dagger at her waist and chased after the polar rock snake. Boom! The few of them immediately engaged in a chaotic battle with the polar rock snake. The person who was targeted and bitten at the beginning was also rescued by others. If he had been a step late, he might have been eaten by the polar rock snake. "I've been waiting for you for so long. There was a trace of excitement in the woman's eyes. A flame suddenly curled up from the dagger. Terrifying fire elemental energy instantly covered her entire body, bringing her along as she charged forward. Boom! The instant the figure moved, the polar rock snake also began to roll, causing dust to soar into the sky. Such a terrifying attack caused the girl to be shocked. If not for her powerful yuan power, she would have long been crushed by the polar rock snake. On the mountain top, Li Zongjiu also slowly walked towards the valley. The blood vines of the blazing blood white lotus were spreading in this direction. However, before he could find the blazing blood white lotus, Li Zongjiu heard a violent vibration. It was accompanied by a series of low roars. Someone is fighting with a meta beast? Logically speaking, where there are meta beasts, there should be something like a guardian elixir. Thinking of this, Li Zongjiu also excitedly chased in the direction of the sound. The opportunity that Ling Yan mentioned was very important to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was also very lucky to have broken through the ancient golden tyrant body technique on the first day. In the next 2 days, he could also properly train. First, he had to test his body's strength. The control of one's own strength was also very important. Being able to encounter a local meta beast, Li Zongjiu was also impatient to come into contact with it. After breaking through, the surrounding temperature was no longer a problem for Li Zongjiu. Hence, Li Zongjiu's original route was also to head towards the depths of the valley. Whoosh! When Li Zongjiu's figure rushed downwards, a yellow rat emerged from the ground. A khaki-colored rat crawled out from the crack in the ground. When it saw the direction that Li Zongjiu was heading in, it immediately ran down the mountain. Very quickly, it fell into the hands of a black-clothed man. In an instant, the black-clothed man heard it. After chattering for a while, the black-clothed man looked in the direction of the valley. Found it, chase. Whoosh! Over 10 figures immediately erupted with terrifying speed and force at this moment. Boom! Chapter 347. Inside the valley. Rocks flew everywhere. Su Mo gritted his teeth in anger when he saw that his team members had been seriously injured. The 3 of you, take the wounded and retreat. Tai Hua, you and I will kill this guy. A man called Tai Hua immediately carried an iron rod in his hand. The iron rod spun in the air and immediately blocked some of the flying rocks. Got it. Tai Hua first covered the 3 of them as they retreated with the wounded. Then, he carried the terrifying firepower of the iron rod in his hand and went around the polar rock snake. He leaped and smashed the iron rod on the head of the polar rock snake. Clang! The flames on the iron rod immediately dissipated. The polar rock snake's body defense was too strong. It could be said that it was invulnerable. Only Su Mo's dagger could scratch the polar rock snake. The other people's weapons and even Yuan Li could not cause the slightest damage to the polar rock snake. Boom! The polar rock snake rolled over and pressed the iron pestle under its body, smashing it into the ground. Cough, cough, cough. Tai Hua was seriously injured. Seeing this, Su Mo's figure also flew up. The dagger in his hand immediately turned into a ray of light and swept towards the head of the polar rock snake. Swoosh! Bang! The polar rock snake's head was hit by the dagger. However, this little bit of damage was not even a scratch to it. On the other hand, Su Mo had directly lost a sharp weapon, so it was impossible for him to injure this terrifying fellow by relying solely on his origin energy. At this moment, he could only retreat. Go! Su Mo carried Tai Hua. Tai Hua's sternum was broken. At this moment, he was able to open his eyes because of his training. Otherwise, he would have fainted. No, Captain, I can't escape. Hurry up and go. I'll hold it back. Tai Hua said firmly. At the same time, he pointed at a pitch-black iron ball in his hand. Lightning palm. Once thrown, the area within a radius of 5 feet would be covered by terrifying iron pieces. There was no place to escape. No, I will never give up on my team members, Su-mo immediately said. However, the polar rock snake wouldn't listen to their conversation. Immediately, it rose to a height of nearly 100 meters. Then, it smashed down towards Su-mo and his companion. Damn it! This move was unavoidable. Could it be that Su-mo really wanted to abandon his companions? This was absolutely impossible. She would never let such a thing happen. Get out of here. Su-mo grabbed the iron rod by the collar and threw it out. The thunder palm was also caught in Su-mo's hand. She had already made up her mind that once this fellow landed, she would perish together with it. So, Su-mo had already made up his mind to die. But all of a sudden, a strong gust of wind swept past the top of his head and a figure appeared above him. What? A trace of surprise flashed across Su-mo's eyes. The figure that rushed out seemed to be unafraid of death as it crashed into the polar rock snake. At this speed, not only will the polar rock snake not suffer any damage, but its internal organs will also be damaged by the shock. Su-mo could already see Li Zongjio being smashed into a pile of meat paste. Immediately, he couldn't help but lower his head. If he were to become a pile of meat paste in an instant, it would be too miserable. However, Su-mo guessed wrong. Li Zongjio, who was flying over, crashed into the polar rock snake's abdomen with a boom. Immediately, the polar rock snake's body fell backward. Obviously, it was knocked over by Li Zongjio. After the collision, Li Zongjio's feet lightly tapped on the air. Once again, he rose into the air, raised his fist, and directly smashed towards the polar rock snake's head. Boom! Boom! Su-mo stood there in a daze. He didn't even have time to throw out the thunder palm in his hand. All he could see was that the polar rock snake was being violently beaten up by Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio's fist wind was swift and fierce. His fist hit the dagger stuck in the snake's head. Bang! The dagger directly pierced through the polar rock snake's head and came out from its chin. The dagger actually penetrated the polar rock snake's head. Whoosh! The dagger fell to the ground not far from Su-mo. When Su-mo saw this scene, he was so shocked that his mouth was wide open. This was simply too ferocious. Suddenly, the polar rock snake's body, which was nearly 150 meters long, rose into the air and left the ground. Then, it made a circle in the air and fiercely fell down. Boom! As he fell, the entire incandescent mountain seemed to shake. Such a terrifying scene. Such a shocking scene. Su-mo couldn't believe it for a long time. Tai Chiao, who was lying on the ground, also opened his eyes wide in surprise. This. Could it be that the mighty ape god is the reincarnation? After falling to the ground, the polar rock snake had already been smashed into pieces. Li Zongjio glanced at his fist. This is a little more fierce than I thought. Previously, Li Zongjio had estimated his strength roughly. In terms of strength, he estimated that there wasn't much difference between him and the polar rock snake. They should be in a stalemate. Li Zongjio was worried that he would be defeated by the polar rock snake. However, when his fist landed, he immediately felt that the body of the polar rock snake was as soft as a piece of cotton. It didn't even have the slightest resistance. One punch was enough to seriously injure the polar rock snake. Li Zongjio's ancient golden tyrant body technique had just broken through to the 3rd level. It actually achieved such an effect. Judging from the latter's aura, the polar rock snake should be at the 4th grade origin ancestor realm. In other words, it was a middle rank for origin beast. However, as the latter grew up in White Blaze Mountain, the strength it possessed was much greater and its defense was even more terrifying. It was much stronger than an ordinary rank 4 middle-grade Yuan beast and could even be compared to a rank 4 high-grade Yuan beast. Su Mo was only at the 3rd grade origin ancestor realm. Being able to fight with the polar rock snake until now was already pretty good. However, it would be difficult to kill the polar rock snake just by relying on such a fierce fighting style. If Li Zongjiu hadn't arrived in time, Su Mo would have been dead. With one punch, the polar rock snake's head defense had been smashed. Then, Li Zongjiu grabbed the rank 4 origin crystal from the polar rock snake's head. This item alone was worth a lot of money and could be used to refine some effective elixirs. That darn thing should be nearby. Li Zongjiu leaped and landed in front of Su Mo. When Su Mo saw that the person who came was actually a teenager, his eyes went blank for a moment. This wasn't a dream, right? The person who beat up a rank 4 soul beast like it was a monkey was actually this fair-skinned young man in front of him. After the breakthrough, Li Zongjiu's skin had also undergone a transformation. Although it wasn't too fair, to Su Mo and the others, he was a real fair-skinned teenager. Li Zongjiu was also attracted by Su Mo's healthy figure. With Li Zongjiu's experience, he had seen all kinds of beauties. However, when he saw Su Mo's healthy figure and the slightly bulging muscles on his body, he was attracted to him. There didn't seem to be any extra fat on his body. He had such a healthy physique, yet he was wearing so little. How could anyone not look at him? Have you seen this flower before? Li Zongjiu opened the herbal booklet in his hand. It depicted the appearance of the blazing blood white lotus. Are you looking for the blazing blood white lotus? Su Mo lived in the blazing blood mountain, so he naturally knew about the blazing blood white lotus. Have you seen it before? No, I haven't. The blazing blood white lotus is invisible. Once you approach it, you will be controlled by it and become a walking corpse. Su Mo explained succinctly. This was to tell Li Zongjiu how terrifying this thing was. Although Li Zongjiu's strength seemed to be good, it was still not enough to deal with the blazing blood white lotus. In the past, even a Yuan King level elite had almost lost his life to this thing. He had had no choice but to retreat. If he hadn't left, he probably wouldn't have been able to. Thanks. Li Zongjiu turned around and walked away. Since she didn't know, he could only search for it himself. Wait a minute. Su Mo called out to Li Zongjiu. Can you sell me the Yuan crystals you have? This time, they were hunting the polar rock snake precisely for the crystal of the polar rock snake. With the Yuan crystals of the polar rock snake, their entire team would be able to break through. Therefore, the Yuan crystals were very important to them. I can pay you 1 million gold yuan, but I have to pay you in 3 months. I don't have any money now. Chapter 348. 1 million gold yuan. For Li Zongjiu, who already had 100 million gold yuan, this amount of money was of no use at all. However, the most important thing was that the Yuan crystal in his hand was definitely worth more than 1 million gold yuan. According to purple yuan, it wouldn't be a problem even if it was sold for 3 or 4 million purple yuan. After all, this kind of special Yuan crystal had a higher value. If the price was agreed upon, then it would be fine. However, he actually said that he would pay after 3 months. Just based on the current situation, who knew how many changes were happening every day? Some people might not even be able to survive after 3 months. Now that he had given it to him, what would he do if he ran away? Therefore, this was a very inconceivable deal. In fact, even Su Mo himself didn't dare to believe it when he said it. That Yuan crystal might be very precious to people like Li Zongjiu, but it wasn't necessary. However, for Su Mo, it was very precious and very hard to come by. Their team had spent nearly a month searching in the Baiji Mountains. In order to find the polar rock snake, even though they knew that their chances of winning were very low, they still fought with their lives on the line. From this, one could see how important this Yuan crystal was to them. Li Zongjio didn't directly leave. Instead, he turned around and glanced at Sumo. Sumo's heart moved. It seemed that there was still room for discussion. He was just afraid that Li Zongjio would ignore them. If that was the case, then there was no room for discussion. Just based on the performance just now, Li Zongjio could kill them all with one hand. Even if he stood there and let them attack him, he probably wouldn't be able to defeat them. "Who are you people?" Li Zongjio asked. "We are the Vermilion Bird Army," Sumo said. When he said this, Sumo's heart was filled with pride. However, he didn't tell Li Zongjio the number of the army. This was considered a military secret. Whoosh! Li Zongjio threw the item over to Sumo. After Sumo caught it, his face was filled with disbelief. Feeling the vigorous energy released from the object in his hand, Sumo's heart was shocked. Was this the polar rock snake's crystal? Sure enough, it was filled with terrifying energy. It was amazing. Such power. However, since Li Zongjio had given the crystal to her so easily, there must be a condition. "I trust the reputation of the Vermilion Bird Army. Other than the 1 million, I want you to help me find medicinal ingredients. Bring me all the precious medicinal ingredients that have appeared around here," Li Zongjio said. He was not a saint, and this was merely a transaction. Although he didn't care for 1 million gold coins, it wasn't a small amount, so he wasn't willing to give it up. In addition, since the other party was the Vermilion Bird Army, then the Vermilion Bird Army was stationed near White Blaze Mountain. They must be more familiar with White Blaze Mountain than Li Zongjio. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to find the polar rock snake so accurately and follow it all the way here. In order to increase efficiency, Li Zongjio didn't mind losing some. After all, the polar rock snake's crystal didn't have much use for him. However, for an alchemist, it was beneficial to collect more of these things. No problem. Sumo immediately agreed. "You want to find medicinal ingredients? Are you an alchemist? Or an alchemist?" Sumo looked at Li Zongjio in surprise. At such a young age, not only was his battle strength strong, but he also knew how to refine pills. If that was the case, then wouldn't he be a monstrous existence? Cough cough. Tai Hua was also helped up by Sumo. After obtaining this crystal, the two of them didn't know how grateful they were to Li Zongjio. Moreover, if it wasn't for Li Zongjio's help, then they probably would have died here today. Just this life-saving grace alone was already difficult for them to repay. "I'm from the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor," Li Zongjio said. Looking at the injured Tai Hua, he flicked his finger and a third-grade healing pill fell into his hand. These pills were all casually refined by Li Zongjio. They were all made from leftover materials. After reaching a certain level of cultivation, doing these things casually would be more effective than some people going all out. Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. I didn't expect him to be a great talent from the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Sumo's eyes suddenly lit up. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor had considerable prestige among these soldiers. If it weren't for the fact that their alchemists had been attached to the rear during the expedition, which guaranteed them absolute medical care, no one would have been so foolish as to rush out and risk their lives like that. There would always be some students from the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor who would join the army. They were really capable, but some of them had bad tempers. But for those who were capable, there was no problem with a bad temper. Since everyone was considered as one of them, then, Sumo didn't need to be too reserved. This is a third-grade pill. My God, my God. Tai Hua held the third-grade pill in his hand and smelled the fragrance on it. He almost fainted. This thing was too powerful. It wasn't that Tai Hua was ignorant. He had seen third-grade pills before. However, this kind of thing was only available to the backbone of the army. They had an endless supply of ordinary healing pills. But at this moment, they actually had the opportunity to obtain a third-grade pill. This made Tai Hua extremely touched. I want to have a taste of what a grade 3 medicinal pill tastes like. Tai Hua was extremely touched. If you don't eat it, I'll take it and hand it in. Su Mo looked at Tai Hua, who was reluctant to put it in his mouth for a long time and couldn't help but laugh. This kid was really naughty. But as Su Mo's team members, they had suffered too much. That was the reason why Su Mo wanted to win this competition. Hey, little brother, you've helped me so much. I won't let you suffer. We've explored more than half of the White Blaze Mountain in a month. I'll lead the way. I guarantee you'll have a bountiful harvest. Su Mo said. All right, I'll give you half an hour to recover. After half an hour, we'll set off. Li Zongjiu said. Lend me your dagger for a while. Su Mo casually threw his treasured dagger to Li Zongjiu. Could it be that he was afraid that Li Zongjiu would snatch it away? This was a 4th-grade Meta Beast's crystal and now it was a 3rd-grade pill. Both of them were very valuable. Even if he took his dagger away, it wouldn't be worth it. That was why Su Mo thought so. He was very relieved and threw the dagger to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu held the dagger in his hand and ran to the front of the polar rock snake. From Su Mo's angle, it was very obvious that he opened the mouth of the polar rock snake and walked in. So alchemist is such a profession. Su Mo saw Li Zongjiu's actions and couldn't help but exclaim. Li Zongjiu only took the gallbladder of the polar rock snake. Originally, he didn't want it. However, the gallbladder of this thing should be good. In the future, it would be somewhat useful when refining pills. Li Zongjiu's trip this time wouldn't be in vain. Half an hour later. The sky had turned dark. Tai Hua, who had been recovering from his injuries, stood up very excitedly at this moment with a surprised expression on his face. Holy shit, my injuries are all healed. Not only that, I also feel that my strength has increased by 3 levels. My eyesight seems to be better. Damn, this is simply a divine pill. Tai Hua couldn't believe it. This medicinal pill could actually bring about such great benefits. He even felt that his blood and qi were now vigorous. He couldn't wait to run 8 or 10 laps around the White Blaze Mountain to exercise and vent. You're showing off. That guy has been in the snake's stomach for half an hour. Don't tell me he suffocated to death. Just when Su Mo was about to go forward to check, he happened to see the stomach of the polar rock snake suddenly bulging. Then, Li Zongjiu opened a hole and walked out. It's about time. Let's go. Where did you find this polar rock snake? Chapter 349. Even though Li Zongjiu's body wasn't dirty after staying in the snake's stomach for a while because of the protection of his yuan qi, the smell was indeed a little heavy. At first, Su Mo didn't know why Li Zongjiu stayed in the snake's stomach for so long. It was only later that they found out that Li Zongjiu had been analyzing the things that the snake had eaten in its stomach. Then, based on the things that the snake had eaten, he determined what the polar rock snake had eaten in the vicinity, and what might be growing there. The incandescent mountain was very wide. Just the height alone was more than a few hundred feet. The area it covered, in addition to the evolution of the mountain's terrain, was naturally very terrifying. Therefore, it was very convenient for Li Zongjiu to have someone to lead the way. Over here. Su Mo really admired Li Zongjiu. The 3 of them set off. Along the way, Su Mo and Tai Chi also displayed the strength of the Vermilion Bird Army. In such a hot place, they were still able to bring out 100% of their mental state. They often landed on the ground to explore and find their way. Night fell. Even though there was no sun, the temperature of the incandescent mountain didn't drop. Instead, it gave people a very stuffy feeling. It was as if the entire incandescent mountain was a very large steamer. Everyone inside was in a very stuffy state. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 15 figures quickly flashed past. Previously, they had compared Li Zongjiu's route, so they also landed in front of a canyon and set up an ambush here. The heat avoidance pills we have can only last for 2 hours. In half an hour, we must take care of Li Zongjiu and return at full speed. The leader of the Hidden Moon Guard said. The experts behind him were also in high spirits. In order to be able to move freely in the incandescent mountain, they had to pay a huge price. They had also paid a great price. One heat avoidance pill could last for 10 hours, but as they went deeper, the effect of the heat avoidance pill became weaker and weaker. They had to take more. Therefore, in the next hour, if they could not cripple Li Zongjiu, they would be the ones to die. He's here. Up ahead, a figure was walking on the path. Although the path was pitch black, the appearance of this person instantly attracted the attention of all the Hidden Moon Guards. Even under the night sky, Holy Yen City still appeared lively and glorious. In a rather secluded pavilion, a woman in a white dress had been waiting for a long time. Suddenly, a man stuck his head out from behind a nearby wall and waved at the woman in front of him. Little you. Brother Liang. The woman turned around and was pleasantly surprised when she saw Beiho Liang. Beiho Liang was also looking left and right. Then, he carefully walked up to Xiaoye. Xiaoyu, what's wrong? Why did you call me out so urgently? Is your father's illness getting worse? I'll give you 100,000 gold coins. Take it first. Beiho Liang said. Then, he took out a stack of bank notes from his sleeve and stuffed it into Xiaoyu's hand. No. Brother Liang, Xiaoye wanted to say something, but it was too late. Whoosh! Whoosh! Several figures jumped down from the pavilion. They held a shiny long blade in their hands. When they landed, they did not say anything and directly rushed toward Beiho Liang. When Beiho Liang saw this, he immediately pushed Xiaoyu away. Shit! After Xiaoye was pushed away, her body was directly pierced through by a blade. The sharp white blade in her chest was bleeding. Xiaoye's body slowly fell and was quickly pushed to the side. Beiho Liang wanted to escape, but he realized that he was already surrounded. There was no way out. Don't kill me. How much money do you want? I'll give it to you. Beiho Liang knew that he was going to die, but there was no other way. His strong desire to live made him want to struggle. Even if he was a student of Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Even if he was a young master of a family in Black North Giant City. In Black North Giant City, he was nothing. If he offended the nobles, they had countless ways to make him disappear, or even disappear without a trace. Beiho Liang took a wrong step. When he touched the sun. When he started to have a grudge with Li Zongjiu, he was already dead. This time, whether he went to White Blaze Mountain or not, his end was the same. The leader of the black-clothed men walked forward. With a wave of his blade, he chopped off Beiho Liang's head. Bang! Beiho Liang's head rolled on the ground, blood splattering everywhere. This young master, who could call the wind and summon the rain in Black North Giant City, became a corpse without any struggle. Before he died, he did not even leave behind any last words. Even if Beiho Liang's family really came to investigate this matter, when they started to investigate, they would know how big Beiho Liang's family was. They would know how big of a trouble Beiho Liang had encountered. At that time, they would naturally shrink back. If they wanted to confront the Yi clan head-on, then they would have to wait for their clan to be exterminated. The Yi family had lost one person. They only lost one person from the Bei family. That was already too easy for them. If they could not back down, even if they destroyed the entire Bei family, they would have nothing to say. Want to resist? Sorry, you can think about it. Take away the head, burn the body, and throw the rest into the river. The leader said. Immediately, someone walked forward and used a piece of black cloth to wrap Bei Ho Liang's head. The rest of the body was poured into a pile of white powder. The white powder instantly ignited the body. It was colorless and odorless. The entire process of killing and leaving did not exceed 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, the place was completely clean. When Bei Ho Liang's head was placed in front of Yi Lone Moon, the bitter face of Yi Lone Moon finally showed a trace of a smile. If I can't even deal with this kind of trash, then I will really become a trash. Yi Lone Moon sneered, then looked in the direction of White Blaze Mountain. Now, he was waiting for Li Zongjiu's head to be placed in front of him. White Blaze Mountain. The leader of the Hidden Moon Guards looked at the body under his feet in disbelief. Just a moment ago, when they were about to ambush Li Zongjiu, 2 people suddenly charged out from the side. These 2 people rushed into the camp of the Hidden Moon Guards and instantly reaped the heads of 3 people as if they were harvesting chives. The remaining people wanted to attack, but they realized that Li Zongjiu had already rushed up. When they faced Li Zongjiu, they realized what they were facing. When Li Zongjiu attacked, they did not have any room to resist. Looking at the crushed heads on the ground, they knew how terrifying Li Zongjiu's combat power was. Moon. Why isn't your name in the information I have? You're not from the Yi family. At this time, all of his subordinates were dead. Only the strongest one was still standing, but his arms had been completely cut off. 2 of his arms fell directly to the ground. He did not have any ability to fight back. In front of Li Zongjiu, he did not have any room to resist. Therefore, Li Zongjiu found the token of the Hidden Moon Guards on him. When he saw Li Zongjiu take out a thick book of information, he was shocked. Could it be that this Li Zongjiu was here to deal with the young master? Why isn't there any? Li Zongjiu flipped through the information in his hands. The information that Bei Ho Liang had given him didn't mention the existence of the Hidden Moon Guards. This meant that the Hidden Moon Guards had either been sent by someone else, or Bei Ho Liang didn't have the qualifications to come into contact with them. You're the Hidden Moon Guards. People from the Lone Moon Mansion. Su Mo said in shock when he saw the token in Li Zongjiu's hand. You know them? Su Mo walked over and nodded. That's right. The Yi family's second young master, Yi Lone Moon, has a group of private soldiers in his mansion called the Hidden Moon Guards. They have not been mobilized until now. Of course, they have always been under our control. Su Mo said. At this moment it was the captain of the Hidden Moon Guards' turn to be shocked. He never thought that his Hidden Moon Guards, which were so well hidden, would still be found out by the other party. You. Who exactly are you? The Hidden Moon Guards had already guessed that Li Zongjiu was not just a simple country bumpkin. Humph, you bunch of hoodlums and bandits. Do you really think that no one knows what you're doing? It's just that it's not time yet. If we want to kill you, our Vermilion Bird Army will move out and kill you in less than 3 days. Chapter 350. The reason why Su Mo said this was because the person in front of him was destined to die. It was only now that the Hidden Moon Guards realized how terrifying the power of the imperial family was. The Yi family seemed to be able to cover the sky with one hand, but in reality, even the private soldiers of the Yi family's second young master were under their control. It was just that the Yi family did not need to care about you at the moment. They did not care about you at all. That was why such a situation occurred. They allowed you to develop freely, but everything was under their control. Although the Hidden Moon Guards were rarely deployed, in order to train these Hidden Moon Guards, the people in Lone Moon's residence had done many shady things. That was why. Su Mo hated these people to the core. This Yi family is really arrogant. Li Zongjiu could not help but shake his head. Li Zongjiu always had the feeling of a tiger being bullied by a dog. However, if this was the case, Li Zongjiu's strength in his previous life was not as good as his current strength at this age. If Li Zongjiu had to face the Yi clan back then, he would have died many times over. But it was different this time. Although I had no enmity with you in my previous life, in this life, you just had to provoke me. Don't worry, the Yi family will accompany you soon. After Li Zhongjiu finished speaking, he directly plucked off the head of the hidden moon guards and searched through their storage rings. He realized that other than some clothes, there was not a single cent. The only rich person was the leader. But the money in his hands was only enough to cover the expenses of the entire team for a few days. They were really poor. This is a heat avoidance pill. It can resist the heat of the incandescent mountain. Su Mo also found some things. The heat avoidance pill could be considered as a luxury item in this place. It was a consumable item that needed to be consumed at all times. Usually, the consumption of these consumables was very terrifying. You can keep it for yourselves. Li Zhongjiu waved his hand and said. From the performance just now, it seemed that the Vermilion Bird Army hated these people very much. After all, these people were some of the nobles in the palace. How many of the nobles' deeds were clean? The Vermilion Bird Army was different from other armies. The purpose of their existence was to intimidate the ministers in the imperial court. Although there were also imperial guards in the palace, the imperial guards were more like a bunch of decorations. They were placed there to make a strong impression. Usually, they were used to deal with small thieves and the like. In fact, they couldn't even leave the palace within their jurisdiction. However, the Vermilion Bird Army was different. If they were stationed outside the city, they could send out a signal from within the city, and they would be able to assemble within an hour and provide reinforcements. Furthermore, the outside world did not know much about this mysterious army. How many people were there? What was their average strength? Who was their commander? Those were all very secretive information. Even if you obtained some information, there was no way to verify it. There was no guarantee that the information you obtained was true. The existence of such a team was the biggest threat to these people. The Vermilion Bird Army knew the nobles in the city like the back of their hand and would follow them regularly. Naturally, they knew what these people were doing in the dark. However, they usually didn't have the chance because Su Mo and the others were soldiers and couldn't act as they pleased. However, it was different in Mount Baiji. They encountered them by accident, and their main target was Li Zhongjiu. They only killed these people to protect Li Zhongjiu. The dignified hidden moon guards couldn't even defeat 3 people. Except for Li Zhongjiu. Su Mo and Tai Ji's fighting strength was also very frightening. They let these people know how powerful the Vermilion Bird Army was. For Li Zhongjiu, the sudden appearance of the hidden moon guards was only a small interlude. He didn't even need to pay too much attention to them. In his eyes, these assassins were just a bunch of trash. However, these trash had angered this sleeping lion. When the 3 of them arrived in front of a stone valley, they could feel from afar that there was an unusual aura coming from this stone valley. In front of us is the very famous chaotic stone valley. Most people will become deranged after entering it and become a lunatic. Generally, if there are fugitives, we will exile them here. Su Mo said. It turned out that the polar rock snake that they were chasing was also discovered in this chaotic stone valley. They had set up an ambush to ambush the polar rock snake, but it didn't work. In the end, Su Mo led a small team to chase after it. In the end, they chased after it for a month. They didn't even know that the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor had entered the mountain. Fortunately, Li Zhongjiu stepped in and pulled them back at the most critical moment. As for this chaotic stone valley, they usually didn't dare to get close to it. Some people didn't believe in heresy, but they usually ended up in a very miserable state. So far, there was no exception. Their Lord Commander came to take a look at this place and directly ordered everyone not to get close to it. It became a forbidden area for the Vermilion Bird Army. Su Mo glanced at Tai Chiao. If they entered this chaotic stone valley, they would be violating the military order. Tai Chiao, stay here and help. If anything happens to me, immediately returned to the camp. "No, Captain. I have to stay by your side and protect you," Tai Chiao hurriedly said. Seeing that Tai Chiao was about to go crazy, Su Mo immediately said, "If you go in with me and something happens to me, who will go and find help?" Tai Chiao stopped after hearing Su Mo's words. He thought about it carefully and felt that it made sense. "That's right. Then I'll stay here. If anything happens to Captain, immediately release the signal," Tai Chiao said. "Good job." Su Mo patted Tai Chiao's shoulder and looked at Li Zongjiu. He didn't have time to waste with them and directly walked in. When he saw the chaotic stone valley for the first time, Li Zongjiu knew this was the place he wanted to come to. The surroundings were filled with powerful mental strength. Of course, this mental strength was not concentrated, but scattered. It was like a powerful army, but they were scattered here and were not under command. Therefore, when you approached the fire, only the nearby soldiers would attack. If this powerful mind power was concentrated, even a Yuan King elite would find it difficult to resist. Li Zongjiu exclaimed in his heart. At the same time, he felt an unbearable itch in his heart. It was obvious that the things in this chaotic stone valley were extremely nutritious. It would definitely be a very good tonic for mind power. "Don't go beyond 5 feet from me. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you." Li Zongjiu looked at Su Mo, who was chasing after him, and said indifferently. Su Mo didn't care. It wasn't certain who would be protecting who. Combat power was one thing, experience was another. After all, this was the territory of the Vermilion Bird Army. If she was led by the nose by Li Zongjiu, it would be too embarrassing. This is the territory of the Vermilion Bird Army. We have already done a lot of investigation here. I guarantee that you won't be at a disadvantage if you follow me," Su Mo said and then took a step forward. She directly led the way. Chapter 351. Within the chaotic stone valley, Li Zongjiu walked towards the place where the mental energy was concentrated. When he got closer, he could feel that Su Mo, who was beside him, couldn't hold on any longer. "We've already gone too deep into the chaotic stone valley. Even people of the same age as us couldn't get within 500 meters. We've already walked close to 1,000 meters. Su Mo said worriedly. "Shoo, it's coming." Li Zongjiu quickly waved his hand. The instant Su Mo spoke, Li Zongjiu also felt a wave of energy quickly approaching. Rumble, suddenly, a terrifying force burst out from the ground in front of them. It seemed like some kind of giant beast was traveling under the ground. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion, and it appeared in front of the two of them. "Careful!" Su Mo immediately shouted as he held the dagger in his hand. The origin of the other party was unknown, so he had to be prepared to go all out. Blood Vine. The wave of energy rushed in front of Su Mo and was about to reach his feet. However, Li Zongjiu took a step forward and threw out a ball of obsidian fire. Instantly, the thing underground rushed out. Boom! From Su Mo's point of view, the thing that was forced out was the assassin of the night that the Vermilion Bird Army had to face. It was obvious that this wasn't the first time they had faced the terrifying Blood Vine. However, compared to the blood vines they encountered in the outside world, the blood vine in front of them was like an enlarged version of the blood vine. Just this one alone was equivalent to the polar rock snake that they had faced before. So thick. Li Zongjiu was shocked when he saw the blood vine that he had forced out. Previously, when he was cultivating the ancient golden tyrant body technique, the blood vine had appeared. If it wasn't for the blood vine's sneak attack, Li Zongjiu might not have had the chance to break through his body's limit. However, the blood vine that bound Li Zongjiu was only as thick as a thumb. Why was the blood vine in front of him so terrifying? Even Li Zongjiu was shocked when he saw it. This blood vine is an assassin of the White Blaze Mountain. It appears and disappears unpredictably and is incomparably ferocious. Moreover, there seems to be no end to it. Su Mo said in a deep voice. In fact, what Su Mo didn't mention was that the vines they had seen in the army were at most half as thick as this blood vine. They weren't as thick as this one before them. This kind of power was even more terrifying. However, Li Zongjiu did not take Su Mo's words to heart. Li Zongjiu already knew what these blood-red vines were and where they came from. The blood vine that had bound him must have been a branch of the blazing blood white lotus. Based on the current situation, the roots of this blazing blood white lotus were so wide that it occupied the entire chaotic stone valley. This chaotic stone valley had obviously become the territory of the blazing blood white lotus. The blazing blood white lotus was also described in the herbal booklet. The blazing blood white lotus was a kind of herb that could release mental fluctuations. Therefore, it was extremely dangerous. Li Zongjiu and Su Mo had now intruded into the territory of the blazing blood white lotus. However, the main body of the blazing blood white lotus had yet to awaken. On the other hand, the blood-red vines in front of them had an extremely strong desire for living things. After sensing the two of them, they quickly rushed towards them. Li Zongjiu directly rushed out and attacked the thick blood-red vine. A small black iron hammer appeared in his hand. Mysterious lightning hammer. Boom! This hammer also carried the power of Li Zongjiu's obsidian fire. In an instant, the thick blood-red vine was shattered by Li Zongjiu. His entire body burned and spread towards the depths of the ground. What? Su Mo couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Li Zongjiu destroy the blood-red vine in front of him with a single move. It should be known that the blood-red vines were extremely difficult to deal with. In order to kill a single blood-red vine, it usually required the strength of an entire team. This was because the blood-red vine could continuously grow and was extremely flexible. I'd like to see how many tentacles you have. Li Zongjiu's eyes flickered with a cold light. Immediately, the mysterious lightning hammer in his hand made a loud boom. It smashed onto the ground. Boom! The ground of the chaotic stone valley suddenly shook violently as if there was an earthquake. In an instant, it shook violently and the ground cracked. Crack, crack. Bang! Countless pieces of flaming vines flew up from the ground and landed on the ground with a bang. The surrounding mountain walls also spat out these terrifying blood-red vines. Without exception, they were all destroyed by Li Zongjiu. The originally scorching hot valley seemed to have become even hotter at this moment. Su Mo just stood there and watched Li Zongjiu's actions in shock. It should be out soon. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. What's out soon? Su Mo couldn't help but be stunned. What is Li Zongjiu talking about? Could it be that there are some meta beasts here? Su Mo also saw that Li Zongjiu seemed to be holding something in his hand. It was as thin as a cicada's wing. When he saw it, it was actually a little dazzling and he couldn't see it clearly. Li Zongjiu stood calmly in the middle of the road. In front of him, there were already potholes and it seemed to have become a ruin. At this moment, Su Mo even felt that the surrounding air seemed to have grown ice. In an instant, a chill struck his heart. It was as if someone was secretly spying on him. How could this be? Then, Su Mo saw an extremely shocking scene. The mountain walls on both sides of the messy skeletons were falling off like tree bark, little by little. What was hidden in the mountain walls were terrifying blood-colored vines. There were so many vines that were continuously twisting around like a group of giant snakes that had stood up. As they swayed, it was extremely dazzling. If an ordinary person saw this scene, they would definitely not faint immediately. This was because this scene was indeed too frightening. Such a scene was simply like a nightmare in one's life. If one was entangled by these vines, who knew what would happen to them? Should we retreat first? Even Su Mo lost his confidence. It turned out that there was such a terrifying thing in the chaotic stone valley. No wonder the commander had ordered that this place be turned into a forbidden area. No one was allowed to enter. As for the prisoners who were exiled here, of course, there was no way for them to leave this place alive. They had already died here and became a pile of white bones. It was obvious how miserable their fates were. Li Zongjiu didn't answer. Instead, he was still focused in front of him, as if something would appear in front of him. Su Mo was anxious, but he could only stay by Li Zongjiu's side to protect him. If he directly ran away, it would be too disloyal. Rumble. Suddenly, the blood-colored vines seemed to carry the force of a thunderbolt, crushing towards the two of them. In front of them, 4 vines twisted and turned into a huge vine circle, rolling towards the two of them. If they didn't dodge quickly, they would definitely be crushed by these vines. In front of these terrifying vines, any kind of power would seem so insignificant. Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu with an indifferent face. What is this guy trying to do? Why is he still unwilling to leave? Over there. Li Zongjiu's eyes instantly locked onto a place. The vast flying knife in his hand was also thrown out. Swish. The flying knife left his hand as if it was effortless, but when Su Mo saw this scene, he quickly moved in front of Li Zongjiu. He didn't know what Li Zongjiu's flying knife was for. The other party's attack would definitely crush him. The trajectory of Li Zongjiu's flying knife was unclear, but Li Zongjiu could clearly feel that this flying knife had cut through the vines that were blocking it. Chi. It easily pierced through the middle of a lotus's root. Phew. Su Mo was already prepared to attack, but he saw that the blood-colored vines that were about to crush his head had suddenly disappeared. What? When Su Mo saw this scene, he was shocked. Could it be that he was hallucinating? Did I see wrongly? Su Mo didn't dare believe it. He was an origin ancestor. Could his eyes be blind? Even if his eyes were blind, the aura was exactly the same. This is, Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu, wanting to ask what was going on. However, he saw Li Zongjiu lift his finger and flick her forehead. Wake up. Pa. Su Mo only felt that his body seemed to be moving backwards rapidly. When he opened his eyes, he couldn't help but take a few steps back before he stabilized himself. When he looked again, he realized that there was no change in his surroundings. There was no broken valley or terrifying blood-colored vines. How is this possible? He looked in the direction that Li Zongjiu was heading. Su Mo saw a pure white lotus growing under a rock about 200 meters away. There was also a flying knife on the lotus. Everything that had just happened had been an illusion. Chapter 352. Su Mo was drenched in cold sweat even though she had come to her senses later on. If the blood vine ring had attacked them, the two of them would have been pulverized. Even if it was just an illusion, they would have already felt that they had been pulverized. Even if their bodies had not been attacked, they would not have been able to get up. You won't be able to rise again, and you'll really die like this. Su Mo could not believe it. As a member of the Vermilion Bird military, she believed that her willpower was extremely strong. It would not have been easy to hypnotize her. However, she did not even know when she had been hypnotized. For people with weaker mind power, this was just a small trick. However, it was very easy to succeed in such a small trick. Li Zongjiu cultivated the white god Fu. When he took his first step into the chaotic stone valley, he already knew that the blazing white lotus in the chaotic stone valley was a type of spirit medicine that could release a spiritual influence. Although the other party's mental influence was very strong, Li Zongjiu had seen through it at a glance. He had spent a lot of time searching for the real body. After he had found it, he had acted decisively and destroyed the other party's illusion. Li Zongjiu stepped forward and plucked the blazing blood white lotus. At the same time, he retrieved his vast flying dagger. Since it was ranked first, it was obvious that the power of this spiritual herb was not simple. I did not expect that such a small thing would cause our vermilion bird military to lose so many soldiers. Even Su Mo was in disbelief when she saw it. The mental influence of this flower is very strong. Anyone below the Yuan monarch level will be affected by it. Even if you retreat immediately, there will still be repercussions later on. This thing is not to be trifled with. Li Zongjiu said. The repercussions were like continuing to have nightmares after returning. It would make one nervous and might even destroy one's cultivation base and make one's mind unstable. It would also have a great impact on one's future cultivation. I see. Su Mo nodded. After the flower was plucked, the pressure that had originally appeared in the surroundings seemed to have disappeared at this moment. It seemed that this chaotic stone valley was no longer a strange place. Looks like you will have to report this to the higher-ups when you return this time around. Otherwise, if you continue to banish that criminal here, it would be equivalent to letting him go. Are there any other strange places on the Blazing Blood Mountain? Li Zongjiu asked. Strange places? This place is strange everywhere, but if it's as strange as you said, then only the Core Valley can satisfy your needs. Core Valley? Li Zongjiu frowned. That's right. Legend has it that the Blazing Blood Mountain was formed by a meteorite that fell from the sky. The temperature produced in the Core Valley is so high that even Yuan monarchs would find it difficult to mature. Therefore, very few people can enter it. Furthermore, in the core of the valley, there is an exotic beast that is covered in flames. It seems to be guarding something. The dynasty had once organized an attack, but they returned in defeat and did not discover anything. If you want to go, I advise you not to go. Su Mo said. Lead the way. Li Zongjiu said directly. Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu in astonishment. What was wrong with this guy's brain? Didn't he already say that this place was not a place where ordinary people could enter? Even Yuan monarchs might be in danger, yet Li Zongjiu still wanted to go. Wasn't he courting death? You have thought it through. Let's go. Li Zongjiu walked out of the stone valley. Su Mo did not know if he was harming Li Zongjiu or helping Li Zongjiu. The reason he told Li Zongjiu about this was because Su Mo's personality was like that. He would speak his mind. When the two of them appeared in front of Iron Pestle was still in disbelief. You came out so quickly. Is there nothing inside? Or is it too dangerous? Should we just leave? Tai Pestle asked curiously. In comparison, he was more interested in knowing what was inside the stone valley. Everyone was curious about it. Let's go to the Core Valley. Su Mo did not answer Iron Pestle. After all, this fellow's brain was as stiff as a block of iron. Even if he were to tell him, he would only laugh and treat it as a joke. Where are we going? Iron Pestle could not react to Su Mo's words. Where was he talking about? Could it be that he had heard wrongly? The Core Valley. He wants to take a look. After saying that, Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu gestured for Iron Pestle to lead the way with his eyes. Iron Pestle was more familiar with the Core Valley. When they were planning the attack on the Core Valley, Iron Pestle was one of the soldiers in charge of guarding the Core Valley. After all, Iron Pestle had been a soldier longer than Su Mo. People will die in that place. Ordinary people can't withstand the temperature. Iron Pestle said hurriedly. Just lead the way. You talk too much. Su Mo said. Hearing Su Mo's words, Iron Pestle led the way. However, as they walked, he could not help bragging. After all, Iron Pestle had seen the battle in the Core Valley with his own eyes. Speaking of the Core Valley, I have to tell you guys about the situation back then. At that time, the meteorite landed outside the Imperial City. How can you not be nervous? How can you not be nervous? How can you not be nervous? You directly mobilized 2 of the 4 great armies to provide support. Moreover, there were also countless experts who wanted to squeeze in from within the city. In that battle, I actually only saw a little bit. Within the flames, there are very ferocious monsters. Brotherly, if you want to go, you must be careful. Iron Pestle said. Let me tell you. My brain was damaged at that time. When Iron Pestle said that, even Li Zongjio could not help but glance at him. So you know that your brain was damaged. On the incandescent mountain. Ling Yan's figure was floating in the air. There was a water curtain around his body to protect him. With this water curtain, he could resist the terrifying power of the surrounding flames. Therefore, Ling Yan could walk freely on the incandescent mountain. He believed that many people had similar yuan tools. Even if they did not have one, it would not be a problem to buy one in advance. That's strange. That kid is gone. Ling Yan found that he could not sense Li Zongjio's aura. As a teacher in charge, he also needed to ensure the safety of the students in such an outdoor activity. This was also the responsibility of a teacher in charge. If his students died or had an accident, it would be a waste of talent. Sometimes, if he could help, of course, he would help. Therefore, Ling Yan also left a mark on the 2 of them. Less than a day had passed. Of course, he had to check if the 2 of them were still alive. Originally, he wanted to find Li Zongjio first, but when he took out the mark. However, he discovered that the mark on Li Zongjio's body had already disappeared. There was no trace of it at all. This caused Ling Yan to be instantly enraged. However, Li Zongjio also had a higher opinion of him. This kid is quite sinister. I'm afraid that my students are too upright. What if they get bullied? Ling Yan naturally knew that Li Zongjio had discovered the imprint that he had left on Li Zongjio's body. Furthermore, Li Zongjio had already removed the imprint at an unknown time. Let's go check on that Kun Erisher guy first. Immediately, Ling Yan chased after Kun Erisher. However, when Ling Yan followed his mark to find Kun Erisher, he found that Kun Erisher was not there. Instead, he was left on a lizard's body. Damn it. You 2 really think that you are very smart. Ling Yan grabbed the lizard and then fiercely threw it on the ground. His face bloomed with a fierce light. He could not wait to grab the 2 of them and eat them. Originally, as a form teacher, he was confident that he could discipline the 2 of them until they were obedient. But now, the 2 of them actually dared to play tricks in front of him. They used such a method to avoid his surveillance. Good. I want to see how capable the 2 of you are. Ling Yan, who was furious, returned to the campsite. He did not care about the 2 of them. On the incandescent mountain. As the 3 of them approached, even with their cultivation, they could already feel the unbearable heat. Even Taihua had to take a heat avoidance pill to be able to bring the 2 of them forward. Another 500 meters and you will see a cave entrance. That cave is deep underground. That cave is very big. But once you enter that cave, you may be attacked by the strange beasts inside. Taihua pointed forward and said in a deep voice. You 2 go back. Li Zongjio already knew the route. The surroundings were indeed very hot. Even Li Zongjio had to release his yuan power to protect his body. Fortunately, the obsidian flame was able to subdue the surrounding flames. Therefore, Li Zongjio was still able to move freely. However, the 2 of them seemed to be crippled as they kept drinking water. Chapter 353. If we leave, will you be able to do it alone? Tai Chiu scratched his head. Looking at Li Zongjio, he couldn't help but feel worried. Li Zongjio was his savior, so he couldn't just watch Li Zongjio die. Li Zongjio didn't answer such a stupid question. On the other hand, Su Mo was well aware that even if he followed Li Zongjio in, he would only be a burden. Not only would he not be of any help to Li Zongjio, but he would also restrict Li Zongjiu's movements. "We'll wait for you outside the cave. If anything happens, release this signal flare." With that, Su Mo gave his signal flare to Li Zongjiu. This was a signal flare that only the Vermilion Bird Army had. If it was released, the Vermilion Bird Army within 100 miles would quickly come to help, and their numbers would increase. Every single member of the Vermilion Bird Army was a very important member, so no matter who was in danger, they would try to save them in the shortest amount of time possible to ensure the safety of their comrades. It was because of this spirit that the Vermilion Bird Army became an army that caused people to tremble in fear. Li Zongjiu originally wanted to refuse. He wouldn't use this thing, but when he saw Su Mo's expression, he reached out and took it. His body flashed as he charged inside. "It's better if you guys back off a bit. Otherwise, you won't be able to last long." With the surrounding temperature, the Yuan energy in their bodies would be drained very quickly. If a powerful Yuan beast appeared, they wouldn't even be able to escape. "Take this Yuan crystal back first, then gather the team members to cultivate. Don't waste time." Su Mo stuffed the polar rock snake's crystal into Tai Hua's hand. "How can this be? It's such a precious thing." Tai Chiu shook his head. It was as if the Yuan crystal was a hot stone. "Take it. Don't hesitate. Hurry up and go. This is an order." Su Mo's expression became serious. When he gave the order, Tai Chiu immediately stood up straight. "Yes, Captain." Despite his reluctance, he had no other choice. He didn't dare to disobey a military order. As a soldier, his duty was to obey orders. If he couldn't, then what kind of soldier would he be? Seeing Tai Chiu leave, Su Mo was relieved. If Li Zongjiu didn't come out in 2 days, then Su Mo would risk his life to charge in. That way, he would be able to repay Li Zongjiu for saving his life. After retreating a few hundred meters, Su Mo sat down and started meditating. He began to enter into a state of cultivation. Previously in the Stone Valley, he had exhausted almost all of his mental energy and had gone through a life and death battle. Now that he was here, he finally had a chance to rest. Naturally, he had to adjust his mental state. At the same time, if Li Zongjiu encountered any trouble inside, Su Mo would be able to rush over in time. "It's up to you now." Although this core area was full of dangers and even Yuan monarchs wouldn't dare to step into it, Su Mo could tell from Li Zongjiu's eyes that he was a very powerful person. Perhaps Li Zongjiu would be able to explore it smoothly and come out. Su Mo had confidence in Li Zongjiu. He didn't know where this confidence came from. When Li Zongjiu walked in alone, he immediately had a feeling that the energy here was familiar. It was as if he had seen and felt this energy somewhere before. This made Li Zongjiu extremely curious. This blazing energy. Could this be the birthplace of the fire-glazed flame emperor in my previous life? Before Li Zongjiu had become a supreme-grade powerhouse, there had been several generations of powerhouses on the continent. If the current powerhouses of the continent, such as the Alchemy Emperor and the Alchemy Emperor, were considered the first generation of powerhouses, then the fire-glazed flame emperor would be the second generation of powerhouses. Therefore, Li Zongjiu had also come to this place. In the next few hundred years, this place would produce an Yuan monarch powerhouse. However, it was a pity. Now that Li Zongjiu was here, there was no need to hand over such a great opportunity. Although Li Zongjiu had greater opportunities and greater powers, this power was still very suitable for Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu's current power was still very suitable for Li Zongjiu. The strength of the fire-glazed flame emperor relied on the terrifying inextinguishable flames. Inextinguishable flame, that's right. Then it seems that the inextinguishable flame's kindling came from here. Li Zongjiu finally felt the origin of this energy. Moreover, he could clearly feel the power of the pulsating energy around him. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had also seen the strength of the fire-glazed flame emperor. At that time, it was a true world conference. Powerhouses from all over the world had gathered, and each of them wanted to reach the peak. At that time, Li Zongjiu was just a small fry. He was not famous, but he had seen the strength of the fire-glazed flame emperor. He had killed his way to the 10th place of the heavenly tripod list alone. At that time, the fire-glazed flame emperor had yet to reach the peak of his strength. Later on, his strength continued to increase. However, the fire-glazed flame emperor's self-confidence was inflated with the growth of his strength. He actually dared to take liberties with a girl from an ancient family, which resulted in his hands being crippled. After that, there was no news of him anymore. A powerhouse of his generation had fallen. At that time, it was about 1,000 years. It was the peak period of the ancient families of inheritance. Some ancient families had appeared one after another, fighting for the world's resources. To expand their influence, it was as if all of them had discussed it. At the same time, like bamboo shoots after the rain, they had sprung up. At that time, all the major forces could be said to be in a state where 100 flowers bloomed. The appearance of the fire-glazed flame emperor was just a flash in the pan. However, the energy attribute of this place was the same as the fire-glazed flame emperor's. Li Zongjiu liked it very much. If the immortal flame fuses with my obsidian flame, I wonder what it will be like. Li Zongjiu walked into the cave. Before he entered, he had already found some spiritual herbs growing at the side of the cave. As he walked closer, he found that these herbs were all the things that were marked on the herbal medicine booklet. These things are called iron rock mushrooms. Li Zongjiu saw a large number of mushrooms curled up here. It seemed that this place was very suitable for them to grow. Therefore, all of them were here. This gave Li Zongjiu a chance to harvest them. All of them were harvested. After harvesting the iron rock mushrooms, he continued to walk forward and found some new spiritual herbs on the ground. Magma grass, bull's tongue flower. Li Zongjiu's hands moved up and down, and the knife moved up and down, and the precious herbs were all stored away. Li Zongjiu did not let go of anything that had some spiritual energy. Suddenly, Li Zongjiu stepped on a stone. The stone was slightly hot. Li Zongjiu had activated his elemental energy to protect himself, but it was still able to burn Li Zongjiu. This made Li Zongjiu curious. He picked up the stone at his feet and carefully observed it. It's a fire elemental primordial stone. Li Zongjiu's eyes lit up. Ordinary primordial stones had no elemental attributes. They were merely formed from yuan qi and could be used by anyone. However, primordial stones with elemental attributes were even more valuable. Usually, it would take 100 ordinary primordial stones to exchange for one primordial stone with fire elemental attributes. This was because for those who possessed fire elemental energy, this kind of primordial stone was definitely very precious and highly sought after. Keep it. These people's love for primordial stones was no less than a powerful primordial weapon. This was because if one absorbed primordial stones with elemental energy for a long time, it would definitely improve one's own elemental energy. It might even become stronger. Absorbing primordial stones with elemental attributes would definitely bring about more benefits. Roar. Just as Li Zongjiu was about to pick up the primordial stone, suddenly, he felt as if someone was breathing behind him. At this moment, he stopped and turned around to look. Immediately, he saw a pair of bright eyes looking at him from within the pitch-black cave. The moment that person looked at him, an ominous glint burned in his eyes. Boom! A figure pounced towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was unable to dodge in time and was directly thrown into the cave by the figure, rolling deep into the cave. Chapter 354. Although Li Zongjiu couldn't see the other party's face clearly, he could feel what the other party was doing. Suddenly, it opened its bloody mouth and bit down on Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu dodged in an instant. He extended his hand and grabbed the other party's throat. Crack. The moment he grabbed it, Li Zongjiu crushed the other party's throat without any hesitation. After a crisp sound, the pair of claws that grabbed Li Zongjiu lost their strength. It's just a fire wolf. Li Zongjiu's fingertip burned with a ray of light. Under the illumination of the light, a wolf corpse fell to the ground. Although its throat was crushed, its heart was still beating non-stop. This fire wolf brought Li Zongjiu to a place. Li Zongjiu stood up and looked around. This place seemed to be a huge pit. It was surrounded by tall walls. However, he could see that there were some gaps in the walls. I'd like to see if there's anything that can stop me. Li Zongjiu flicked his finger and a ray of flame floated in the air. It directly illuminated the surrounding light. Boom! When Li Zongjiu saw the things around him, his mouth opened wide. He almost blurted out a curse. This was too much. The place where Li Zongjiu was at was like the center of a meta-beast's lair. What he was stepping on was the excrement of the meta-beasts. The meta-beasts that were entrenched on the walls heard the commotion. Or rather, they had already sensed the commotion. They crawled out one after another. There were all kinds of meta-beasts. There were some giant lizards, some giant frogs, and the like. However, without exception, when they were angry, they would emit flames all over their bodies. Boom! Dozens of flames immediately lit up. Within the cave, even without the illumination of Li Zongjiu's flames, everyone could see everything clearly. The balls of flames continued to light up. The power that kept appearing attracted Li Zongjiu's attention. He looked around and saw that there were hundreds of balls of light that lit up. Come on, it's going to be a fierce battle. Li Zongjiu took out his lightning hammer without hesitation. If one wanted to obtain a treasure, one had to go through a trial. This was a principle since ancient times. Li Zongjiu was very clear about this concept. As he experienced more, Li Zongjiu was more convinced of this theory. In this world, there was no free lunch. One had to go through hardships in order to improve. Roar! Roar! The surrounding meta-beasts with flames charged towards Li Zongjiu. The aura that came tearing through the wind, in addition to his own terrifying strength, also caused Li Zongjiu to roar along with it. As a dignified evil lord, could it be that he would be beaten down by these flaming meta-beasts? He swung the lightning hammer in his hand crazily and soared into the sky. Swoosh! Although the other party had the advantage in numbers, due to their large size, they were able to restrict each other. When Li Zongjiu's body moved, it was possible for him to fight one against one or even one against two. Boom! Boom! The lightning hammer smashed down. When it landed on the ground, it exploded with terrifying power. Although these meta-beasts were ferocious, their ferocious aura was like that of a child's when compared to Li Zongjiu. They couldn't scare Li Zongjiu at all. However, when Li Zongjiu heard these fellows roaring even though they were clearly no match for him, Li Zongjiu felt extremely irritated. Shut up, all of you! The blood dragon original spirit burst out from his body instantly. Boom! Li Zongjiu's eyes were red. In addition to the aura that lingered around his body, the terrifying blood dragon was just like a king of the blood clan, overlooking the world. When this aura was unleashed, it immediately caused the surrounding Yuan beasts to become unusually quiet. All of them widened their eyes and looked at the blood dragon that was floating above Li Zongjiu's head. At this moment, even though they were meta beasts that only knew how to kill, they could clearly feel the pressure from the blood dragon. Die! Li Zongjiu didn't hold back. Obviously, these meta beasts were frightened and their fighting power decreased. Therefore, Li Zongjiu swung his hammer down. Boom! Boom! The mysterious lightning hammer continued to descend, smashing the brains of some of the meta beasts. Li Zongjiu was fast, accurate, and ruthless. Phew! In an instant, blood splattered on the battlefield and flames flew everywhere. This battle lasted for almost 20 minutes. Li Zongjiu, who had the support of the blood dragon, was like a herd of sheep waiting to be slaughtered when facing these meta beasts. He took them down easily. That's all there is to it. Li Zongjiu looked at the corpses that were all over the ground. Some of the meta beasts' bodies were still twitching. Li Zongjiu went forward again and swung his hammer down, directly blasting their brains apart. His mental strength turned into a sharp knife and instantly took out the meta crystals of these hundreds of meta beasts. These meta beasts were just ordinary wild beasts before. However, under the catalysis of this energy, they actually formed such power. They even gave birth to the power of meta crystals in their bodies. Li Zongjiu looked at the power of the meta crystals floating in front of him and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. It seemed like the energy here was very suitable for Li Zongjiu. However, the surroundings were pitch black and he couldn't find the existence of any energy. However, Li Zongjiu was very experienced in finding treasures. Thus, he was able to determine with a single glance that if there was something here, it would be extremely difficult to detect. The first thing he had to do was to destroy everything in front of him. Swoosh! Li Zongjiu jumped onto the flat ground. Who would have thought that Li Zongjiu would actually kill so many meta beasts in this cesspool? No one would believe it. However, the blood on his body had already covered Li Zongjiu's aura. Behind this wall, there is a destructive aura. Li Zongjiu held the mysterious lightning hammer and looked at the wall in front of him. Those meta beasts had crawled out from this wall. Therefore, most of the energy that they had absorbed came from this wall. If there was any danger in the core area, it definitely wasn't these meta beasts. Any Yuan King level elite with some equipment would be able to kill all these meta beasts. They were not a threat at all. The real threat was behind this wall. Go! Li Zongjiu channeled his Yuan power and threw the mysterious lightning hammer in his hand out with all his might. Boom! The mysterious lightning hammer hit the wall and a terrifying force surged into the wall. With the mysterious lightning hammer as the starting point, cracks spread out in all directions like a spider web. There was a loud bang. The entire wall collapsed instantly. Li Zongjiu's eyes widened and he gasped when he saw what was in front of him. Su Mo was outside the cave. Although he was very far away, he could still hear the roar coming from the cave. Li Zongjiu seemed to be in the middle of a fierce battle. Su Mo wanted to go in and take a look. However, the aura in the cave wasn't suitable for Su Mo to go near. He didn't know what would happen if he tried to force his way in. At the very least, his meridians would be burned when he channeled his Yuan power. Damn it! Su Mo heard the loud bang and saw a huge cloud of dust spurt out from the cave. He stomped his foot and rushed forward. Who asked me to owe you? Damn it! Chapter 355. It appeared in front of Li Zongjiu. It was a huge flame flower surrounded by flames. The flames dancing on the petals were terrifying. It was as if there was a fire dragon roaring and burning under each flame. Such a situation caused Li Zongjiu to be extremely shocked in his heart. How did the fire glaze flame emperor do it? This is the eternal fire glaze flower. Li Zongjiu was shocked. The eternal fire glaze flower. Wasn't that the original spirit of the fire glaze flame emperor? Although most people's primordial spirits were refined from primordial beasts, if some plants had cultivated for many years and possessed terrifying strength and primordial chi, they could naturally become primordial spirits and be absorbed. It was like a 1,000-year-old water lily. It was a plant, not a primordial beast. So the fire glaze flame emperor refined the eternal fire glaze flower. Just by looking at the aura of this thing, one could tell that it was equivalent to a true Yuan King. Even the indestructible fire glass flower had given birth to an indestructible flame seed. A fire seed and a spiritual herb. If the two were superimposed, it would be very terrifying and the effect would be obvious. If there was something hidden in the meteorite, then putting was the fire seed of the eternal fire. It had fused with the eternal fire glaze flower, causing the eternal fire glaze flower to possess great power. In that case, the eternal fire glaze flower unexpectedly obtained the eternal fire seed and became something like an original spirit. With Li Zongjiu's cultivation level, he quickly figured out the reason for this. Everything in this world was so ingenious. One had to admit that coincidences were very important. Then let me see what you're capable of. Li Zongjiu held the vast flying dagger and strode forward. Above the eternal fire glass flower, a fiery light suddenly bloomed and rushed towards Li Zongjiu. With a gentle wave of the petals, a flame swept over. Boom! The flame rapidly flew over and landed beside Li Zongjiu, but Li Zongjiu had already rushed out. However, the violent explosion still caused a gust of wind and pushed Li Zongjiu away. Bang! Li Zongjiu fell to the ground. The eternal fire turned into a flaming whip and whipped towards Li Zongjiu. Crack! Li Zongjiu hurriedly dodged. There was a mark nearly half a foot deep where he had originally been. This was the power left behind by the everlasting fire. If he had been whipped, Li Zongjiu didn't know if his body would have been able to withstand it. Swoosh! Another long whip of the inextinguishable flame suddenly appeared. As the two fire whips intertwined, they directly sealed Li Zongjiu's figure within. Crack! Crack! Even though Li Zongjiu was able to dodge these attacks with his sharp senses, several of the flaming whips still landed on his body. Even in his current state, there was still a long black burn mark on his body. Hiss! Li Zongjiu grimaced in pain. In such a hot environment, one's pain seemed to be magnified. Even Li Zongjiu could not help but cry out. Are you the only one with fire? Your grandfather also has fire. A similar long whip appeared in Li Zongjiu's hand. It was formed by the obsidian flame. The black dragon soul was attached to the whip and seemed to faintly emit the power of the black dragon's roar. That was why the other party was intimidated. Otherwise, who knew what these guys would do? Pa! Li Zongjiu activated the obsidian flame whip and entangled his opponent's eternal fire whip. At the same time, Li Zongjiu took the opportunity to throw the vast flying dagger in his hand. Just as Li Zongjiu was about to make his move, a burst of energy suddenly attacked him from behind. Swoosh! As the wind howled, Li Zongjiu could already feel his body being constricted. Oh no, it's the guardian meta beast. Li Zongjiu had actually forgotten about it. The guardian of the eternal fire glass flower was a flaming snake. Therefore, when the flaming snake attacked, it used its powerful body to wrap around Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was instantly trapped in the endless pressure and could not escape. The vast flying dagger was also swept away by the dozens of flame whips. With a few cracking sounds, the flame whips entangled the vast flying dagger and prevented it from moving forward. However, the power of the vast flying dagger was not so easily neutralized. In this process, the two parties were in a deadlock. Li Zongjiu. A shout came from the cave. Su Mo saw that Li Zongjiu was entangled by a pitch-black python. The strength of this python was obviously much stronger than Su Mo, but Su Mo did not show any fear. In an instant, he unleashed his strongest attack. Vermilion Bird Slash. Su Mo let out a low growl as he held his dagger in a reverse grip. With a swoosh, he charged forward and stabbed the sharp dagger into the python's body. Roar! Bang! The python let out a low roar, and its body, which was originally shrinking, instantly expanded. At the same time, it fiercely swung its tail, sending Su Mo flying. Su Mo crashed into the mountain wall and fell to the ground with a plop. Su Mo directly fainted. You're courting death. Li Zongjiu naturally saw Su Mo's situation. Although Li Zongjiu did not approve of people of the same age, Su Mo was definitely an outstanding young man. He was simple and not pretentious. This kind of character was also appreciated by Li Zongjiu, which was why he cooperated with Su Mo. Otherwise, he would have shaken off these people long ago. Could it be that Li Zongjiu alone could not find this place? After his rebirth, Li Zongjiu also needed some friends. He didn't want to live with the mentality of an old man. If that was the case, wouldn't it be very meaningless? The youth that he had once wasted, now he had the ability to pick it up again. The more he saw, the more he appreciated people like Su Mo's character. Su Mo could not have withstood the attack just now. He must have been seriously injured. Therefore, Li Zongjiu's eyes were burning with a fierce light. You are courting death. At this moment, the blood dragon original spirit did not need to be mobilized at all. It directly appeared under Li Zongjiu's feet and dragged Li Zongjiu's body into the air. It looked down at the pitch-black python in front of it. This python had been entrenched in this place for several years. Seeing that the eternal fire glass flower was about to mature, it was naturally excited. However, when it woke up today, it discovered that someone was coveting the treasure it had set its eyes on. Naturally, it could not let it go. Chi! The black python roared at Li Zongjiu, wanting to tell Li Zongjiu that it was not afraid. However, Li Zongjiu stretched out his hand and the Thunder Xian hammer appeared in his hand. The obsidian fire curled up and Li Zongjiu's body suddenly fell toward the black python. The blood dragon original spirit under his feet easily tore apart the other party's aura. Boom! The blood claw suddenly pierced the black python's body and restrained it. The black python seemed to know how powerful this blood dragon's soul was after it restrained the latter. At this moment, the only thing that could move was its tail. It suddenly rose up, brushed against the top of the mountain wall, and fell directly toward Li Zongjiu. Boom! Li Zongjiu raised one hand. This attack that was enough to destroy a mountain peak could not move an inch in the hands of Li Zongjiu. It had no power at all. In front of Li Zongjiu, this move seemed to be completely ineffective. A golden light was reflected in the python's pupils. With its intelligence, it naturally knew that it was going to be unlucky. The power that suddenly attacked was a golden light shadow. The golden dragon original spirit. Li Zongjiu blocked the tail attack with one hand and caught the tail attack. It was the power of the golden dragon original spirit that worked. At this moment, the golden dragon original spirit also opened its bloody mouth and bit the tail. You have a king bloodline, but unfortunately, you have provoked someone you should not have provoked. The two original spirits by Li Zongjiu's side directly pressed him and the black python to the ground, making the latter unable to move. Upon seeing this, the black python immediately submitted to Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu ignored it. Obsidian flames lingered on the mysterious lightning hammer in his hand. Boom! A terrifying black flame fell and burned the body of the black python clean like a gust of wind sweeping away fallen leaves. The latter was already at the peak of the Fourth Order realm. It was equivalent to a peak sky origin ancestor realm powerhouse, but in front of Li Zongjiu, it still did not have the slightest ability to fight back. It was easily killed. Ding! A pitch-black yuan crystal fell on the ground, emitting light in the cave like a black diamond. Vast flying knife. At this moment, the flying knife was surrounded by the everlasting flame. The everlasting flame array seemed to be about to melt the vast flying knife, but unfortunately, Li Zongjiu's flying knife was also forged from the meteorite. Break! A thought passed through Lin Dong's mind and a frightening strength immediately spread out from the vast flying knife. Mental energy also shot out like a fan that was extinguishing flames. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the flame on the everlasting flame glass flower was extinguished. Whoosh! At the same time, the flying knife also easily cut off the root of the everlasting flame glass flower. Seeing that the spirituality of the everlasting flame glass flower was about to disappear, Li Zongjiu did not let its vitality fade away. It's not that easy to die. Mental strength wrapped around this power, and then Li Zongjiu helped Su Mo up. Chapter 356. Just now, Li Zongjiu's mental power had been paying attention to Su Mo's condition. The black python's tail flick attack. It had directly caused the elemental bead in Su Mo's body to collapse. Therefore, Li Zongjiu was so furious that he had touched the elemental bead. For a cultivator, it was as good as ending her life. It had even threatened Su Mo's life. Either Su Mo woke up and found that she had lost all her cultivation, or she could only die with serious injuries. Regardless of the outcome, Li Zongjiu was unwilling to see it. After all, Su Mo had rushed out to save him. Even though she knew that she was no match for Li Zongjiu, she still insisted on rushing forward and saving him. Just this kindness alone was something that Li Zongjiu would have to repay for a long time. There was no such thing as a life-saving grace being cancelled out. After all, if it wasn't for her help, there wouldn't be this person anymore. Fortunately, this girl hasn't condensed her elemental soul. Li Zongjiu withdrew his spiritual power and pushed a surge of elemental energy into Su Mo's body, helping Su Mo support this surge of energy. At the very least, she could maintain her last breath and not die. But in fact, Su Mo was almost done. Under such serious injuries, her life force was rapidly draining away. Use the inextinguishable fire to reconstruct the elemental bead. Inextinguishable fiery glass flower, become her elemental soul. Li Zongjiu's enormous willpower instantly poured into the elemental soul of the inextinguishable fiery glass flower. A ball of light condensed in his hand and turned into a small halo. Inextinguishable fire seed. Li Zongjiu then extracted the inextinguishable fire seed from the fiery glass flower's body. Such a supreme treasure was something that ordinary people yearned for greatly. In fact, for the sake of this inextinguishable fire seed, they would even kill everyone who fought for it. Li Zongjiu had seen plenty of such situations. However, Li Zongjiu had seen a lot of treasures before. Although the eternal flame seed was a very strong source of energy, he was willing to sacrifice it for Su Mo's loyalty. First, he fed the inextinguishable flame seed into Su Mo's mouth. At the same time, he also injected the original soul of the fire glass flower into Su Mo's body. Su Mo, who was unconscious, could only feel a wave of scorching hot energy rushing into his body. The pain of the flame invading his body caused Su Mo to furrow his eyebrows. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. White Dragon Origin Spirit. Li Zongjiu summoned the White Dragon Origin Spirit. With the auxiliary attribute of the White Dragon Primordial Spirit, he strengthened his spiritual power and then forcibly helped Su Mo refine the inextinguishable fire seed in his body. The inextinguishable fire seed quietly merged into Su Mo's origin bead. The cracks on the origin bead were also repaired by the terrifying inextinguishable fire seed. This terrifying power also caused the origin bead in Su Mo's body to quickly revolve. Luckily, it's of the same attribute. If it's of different attributes, then even if I'm here, it would be useless. When Li Zongjiu thought of this, he felt some lingering fear. If Su Mo's body couldn't hold on for so long, then wouldn't he be blind? In such a short period of time, there wasn't even enough time to refine pills. Even Li Zongjiu had times when he was helpless. Luckily, Su Mo came from the Vermilion Bird Army. If he wanted to join the Vermilion Bird Army, he had to ensure that his origin energy was of the fire attribute. Otherwise, he wouldn't accept anyone. In order to ensure the integrity and unity of the Vermilion Bird Army. When this concentrated power reached a certain level, it could cause a qualitative change. With Li Zongjiu's strength, he only needed to get through this dangerous period before he could stabilize. Su Mo's mental energy was also continuously merging with the inextinguishable fire glass flower. This merging process was progressing very smoothly. After all, he was once a sovereign-level expert. If he could make a move, then he must have a foolproof treasure. This time, I've given you a great opportunity. When Li Zongjiu completed the merging of the origin bead, he let out a sigh of relief. His head was covered in sweat. At this moment, 1.5 days had passed in the outside world. There was still half a day left until the deadline. It was almost dark now. When the sun rose tomorrow, this trial would be considered to have ended. For that opportunity, Li Zongjiu had to collect some of the herbs. He had to win. Su Mo opened his eyes and woke up from his coma. Su Mo didn't know what had happened to him, nor did he know what had happened to him. However, after waking up, he realized that his strength had increased by a lot. How could this be? Su Mo circulated his energy slightly and was shocked by the vigorous yuan power in his body. He couldn't believe his eyes. How could this be? My yuan power has broken through. This yuan power isn't my yuan power from before. It seems to be purer and more powerful. Feeling the changes in his body, Su Mo was both surprised and worried. Li Zongjiu. You're awake. Su Mo recalled that he had gone to save Li Zongjiu. However, he only had time to stab him once before he was knocked unconscious. He wasn't clear about what happened after that. Li Zongjiu was holding some herbs in his hand. After confirming that Su Mo was fine, Li Zongjiu began to wander around. Not only that, he accidentally found some extremely rare and precious herbs. They were all herbs from the herbal booklet. In fact, the eternal fire glass flower that Li Zongjiu had obtained was even more valuable than these medicinal herbs. It was not even recorded in the medicinal herb booklet, so it should be considered a pleasant surprise. You're injured. You can feel your own strength now. Li Zongjiu said. My strength? Didn't you notice that there's something extra in your body? Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Inside my body. Just as Su Mo's mind moved, his body seemed to release a dazzling energy that slowly diffused into the surroundings. The energy that was released was the terrifying fire elemental energy. Such powerful fire elemental energy. He opened his palm and a ray of light was condensing. It was this thing that was hidden in Su Mo's body. When it appeared, Su Mo felt his strength increase greatly and he possessed an extremely terrifying power. This is, when he saw the thing in his palm, Su Mo finally realized the changes in his body. Yuan Spirit. Although Su Mo had broken through to the origin ancestor realm, he had yet to refine his Yuan Spirit. Because he couldn't find a suitable primordial spirit, Su Mo couldn't beat some powerful primordial spirits, and primordial spirits that were too weak would be a great waste for Su Mo. To be able to become a captain of the Vermilion Bird Army at such a young age was already proof of his talent. This is the eternal fire glass flower. There's an eternal fire seed in your body. This eternal fire seed and this fire glass flower are enough for you to cultivate to the origin emperor realm. It's at least equivalent to a grade 6 yuan beast. It's just right for you. Li Zongjiu said. Although Li Zongjiu's words were calm and ordinary, as if there was nothing to be surprised about, to Su Mo, it was like a thunderclap exploding in his ears. Su Mo was dumbfounded. How? How is this possible? This is a grade 6 yuan spirit. Damn, although the last word was said very softly, Li Zongjiu could still hear it clearly. It's just a grade 6 yuan spirit. It's still up to your potential to what extent it can be used. Li Zongjiu said. Although the yuan spirit was powerful, it had to have a tacit understanding with one's body. Only then could the two combine and become an expert. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste to have a treasure mountain but not know how to use it? How could this be? My God! This is all because of you, it's not me. It's your luck that's good. Otherwise, you would be dead by now. Li Zongjiu interrupted Su Mo's words and paused for a moment before looking at the latter seriously. Next time, if you know you can't win, don't rush up. It's useless. Looking at how serious Li Zongjio was, she didn't know if he was concerned about her or making fun of her. But he shouldn't be making fun of her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have saved her. I didn't expect you to save my life again. I, Su Mo, will never forget. If you have any problems in the future, Su Mo will never decline. Su Mo looked at Li Zongjio's eyes and said. For eyes met, and the atmosphere in the air became a little unusual. Everyone, I said that this place isn't dangerous. It's just that the Vermilion Bird Army is controlling it and doesn't want others to find it. I can guarantee that there are many precious herbs inside. Chapter 357. Footsteps could be heard coming from outside the cave. When Li Zongjio first heard the voice, he found it familiar. However, he quickly recalled who it was. You just broke through. Go and practice. Li Zongjio said to Su Mo, what? Su Mo was stunned. What practice? However, Su Mo also heard the sound coming from the cave. The two of them sat on the same spot, turned around, and looked in the direction of the cave. Someone's here. The few people who came in were shocked and they saw Li Zongjio and Su Mo. It was as if they were caught doing something wrong. Who's there? Due to the dim lighting and the fact that they were more vigilant, they quickly hid behind when there was a problem. They didn't want to reveal their heads. What if it was some extremely ferocious meta beast that suddenly jumped out to eat them? Therefore, these people were also very worried. Wait a minute. That person just now seemed a little familiar. One of them tried to recall. That figure, that appearance, he felt like he had seen it somewhere before. This kind of familiarity at a glance was definitely not wrong. If he had never seen it before, he would definitely not have such a sense of familiarity. Fuck, it's that brat. The few of them suddenly realized. Wasn't the person in the cave the arrogant freshman? The three of them looked at each other and nodded fiercely. There was an extremely sinister smile on their faces. The three of them walked in side by side. How could they let Li Zongjio escape with such a good opportunity? So it's you, brat. Weren't you very arrogant? Let's see where you can run to this time. Yo, I didn't expect you to come here with a little girl instead of looking for herbs. Ching ching, I'm coming. Such a hot body. Junior sister, why don't you follow us? When they saw Su Mo's perfect body that was filled with a trace of wildness. These people's eyes were wide open. Especially after the breakthrough, Su Mo's body seemed to have become more prominent. This casual twist was a fatal attraction to ordinary people. Brat, you sure have good luck with women. The leader looked at Li Zongjio and then looked at Su Mo. Unlike his companions, he didn't reveal a perverted look. Idiot, even though there's no one else here, you're still damaging your image in front of the girls. As the boss, it's only natural for you to remain calm. The three people in front of him were the ones who had a conflict with Li Zongjio and Lan Shan on the sky-shaking ship. He was also in the A class of the Heavenly STEM faculty, but he was 1 year older than Li Zongjio and was in the 2nd grade. I don't know if I'm lucky or not, but I know that you won't be able to enjoy it today. Li Zongjio waved his hand casually, as if he had nothing to lose. No matter what you say, I'm here anyway. And I want to see how you're going to get beaten up, and how you're going to die miserably. Seeing Li Zongjio's face that deserved a beating. The three of them did not wait any longer. Junior sister, you should hide at the side first. This matter has nothing to do with you, so I won't make things difficult for you. The leader of the group said very politely. He gave Su Mo a smile that he thought was very kind. It was as if he wanted to use this smile to conquer Su Mo. Su Mo also grinned at the three people in front of him. That brilliant smile instantly made everything around them lose its color. The three of them were almost captivated by this smile. However, in the next moment, the person at the back got a taste of what it meant to have his balls smashed to the ground. Su Mo's figure flashed and appeared beside the last person. Then, he directly grabbed his shoulder and threw him over his shoulder. Bang! When he fell to the ground, there just so happened to be a piece of rock stuck between his legs. Thus, the instant he fell to the ground, the pain he felt was simply indescribable. Ah! A squeal like a pig being slaughtered rang out. Li Zongjiu calmly sat at the side and arranged the flowers in his hand. They had mistaken Su Mo for someone from the heavenly stellar medicine manor. How could there be such a fierce girl in the heavenly stellar medicine manor? Although one person was instantly defeated, the other two weren't simple either. When Su Mo made his move, they had already reacted. Junior sister, you asked for it. Since you dared to take the initiative to attack, then don't blame us for being impolite. The heavenly stellar medicine manor didn't only nurture an alchemist who knew how to refine pills, but also an alchemist with tenacious vitality. In addition, these people were all people with talent and conditions. Therefore, when they compared themselves to each other, the requirements for themselves would be higher. Therefore, alchemy alone wasn't enough to satisfy them. It wasn't enough for them to stand out from their peers. More importantly, they had to have powerful fighting strength. Boom! Boom! The two of them simultaneously released their auras. They had actually reached the origin ancestor realm. Furthermore, the yuan energy that lingered around their bodies was extremely powerful. It turned into flames that spread in the cave and even emitted crackling sounds. If you don't have any skills, do you think that the A class of the heavenly STEM system is free? Li Zongjiu was a little surprised, as the strength of the two of them had already reached the level 5 sky origin ancestor realm. It seemed like they were still hiding something. How could they have such achievements at such a young age? Furthermore, they usually liked to cause trouble, so Li Zongjiu guessed that it was all an act. When they really fought, they would know each other's strength. Don't use too much strength. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good if you killed them. Li Zongjiu told Su Mo. That person glanced at Li Zongjiu with a sinister look in his eyes. You can show off now. Wait until I deal with this sexy junior sister, then I'll deal with you. Then, you'll know what a sour feeling is. Junior sister, it's not too late for you to surrender now. I, Zhao Qingfeng, don't want to be enemies with you, junior sister. The leader of the group was called Zhao Qingfeng. At this moment, he wanted to persuade Su Mo to surrender. After all, they hadn't fought yet, so there was still room for negotiation. When the real fight started, it wouldn't be a game anymore. Idiot, Su Mo said coldly. Su Mo said coldly. His eyes were filled with mockery. However, the strength of these people still made Su Mo afraid. Although Su Mo knew that his yuan force had broken through, he didn't know exactly how much it had been. Before this, he had only been a third-grade origin ancestor. Thus, he couldn't help but be wary of two fifth-grade origin ancestor experts. However, he wasn't afraid. Instead, he had a very strong desire to fight these people before him, as if he wanted to challenge this level of difficulty. In an instant, Su Mo attacked, not holding back the terrifying yuan power in his body. Although Li Zongjiu had said to hold back a little, it was fine as long as he didn't kill them. You overestimate yourself. Zhao Qingfeng's eyes flashed coldly. Since Su Mo didn't know what was good for him, then he couldn't blame him for being ruthless. There were beautiful women everywhere. Since Su Mo had chosen to attack, then he was an enemy. The three auras collided instantly. One could even faintly hear the roars of beasts. Clearly, the two people had also secretly used a trace of their yuan spirit power, wanting to suppress Su Mo. However, Su Mo wasn't intimidated by the other party's strength. Instead, she dealt with it with ease. Although the two people in front of him had strong yuan qi, their combat strength was too weak in comparison. It was almost weak to the point of no return. Trash. She didn't need to use 100% of her strength. It was only 70% of her strength, and she was already evenly matched with the two of them. 1 against 2, and she didn't even need to use her full strength. How is this possible? Zhao Qinfeng and Su Mo were shocked, but the movements of their hands didn't stop. How could this junior sister be so good at fighting? You dare to come out with just this bit of strength? Su Mo suddenly sped up, and her figure rushed in front of Zhao Qinfeng. Her entire body rose into the air, and her slender legs instantly clamped Zhao Qinfeng's waist. Not good. Zhao Qinfeng didn't have time to enjoy this luck. In the next second, he was ruthlessly thrown out by Su Mo. His head hit a rock with a bang. Chapter 358. Zhao Qinfeng was in pain this time. His head immediately swelled up, making him look like he was in extreme pain. The other person was in disbelief when he saw Zhao Qinfeng fall. However, in the next second, Su Mo also rushed towards him. The latter was so scared that he directly released the power of his Yuan spirit. A volcanic giant ape appeared behind him, releasing a violent and ferocious power at the same time. It spread out in all directions. Boom! Su Mo was also pushed back by this move. His figure quickly swept back, and after taking a few small steps back, he stabilized himself. Behind that person was a red-haired gorilla, who was panting heavily. Its eyes were filled with a terrifying murderous intent, as though it wanted to crush Su Mo into pieces. What's that? Summoning his origin spirit meant that he had already lost in this competition. Facing his own junior sister, he actually had to use his origin spirit power. However, if he didn't use his origin spirit power, then he might have been crippled just now. It was safer to summon his origin spirit. Look, out of the 3 people present, 2 directly fell down. Fortunately, he was smarter. However, when he summoned his Yuan spirit, he also saw that there seemed to be a power released from his opponent's body. Although he couldn't see it clearly, it seemed to be a flower. He actually used a flower as his Yuan spirit. What a joke. There are actually people who use flowers as their primordial spirit. If you can't find a strong primordial beast for you to hunt, you can just tell me directly. But today, I, your senior brother, am going to destroy this flower. This Yuan beast of mine is a true volcanic giant ape at the peak of the 4th rank. Although it hasn't reached adulthood yet, its power is definitely not something you people can resist. Peak of the 4th rank. It sounded very powerful. If it was before today, Su Mo would be shocked. Su Mo would have been shocked, but just now, Li Zongjiu had told him that her primordial spirit was a terrifying existence comparable to a 6th-rank primordial beast. It was simply a world of difference from this peak of the 4th rank in front of him. However, the difference was that Su Mo was in the sky. Su Mo's body was covered by the leaves of the eternal fire glass. At this moment, seeing the giant ape in front of him, he did not panic. Condense fire whip. A flame whip suddenly appeared in Su Mo's hand. There was a faint flame burning on it. It looked like it would be extinguished at any moment. It didn't even have any power to speak of. The senior brother wanted to ruthlessly teach Su Mo a lesson and let Su Mo know how powerful and domineering he was. For such a woman, the most important thing was to learn how to be conquered by men. First, he had to let her know how powerful he was. However, when he wanted to go up, his original soul, the giant volcanic ape, felt a burst of fear from the bottom of its heart. This kind of fear came from the bottom of its heart. It was actually terrified. You piece of trash, hurry up and attack. If you drop the ball at this time, do you believe that I won't let you out again? After being frightened by the senior brother, the giant volcanic ape roared furiously and charged forward. He swung his sandbag-sized fist, which was as thick as a tree trunk, towards Su Mo. At the same time, Su Mo also lashed out with his flaming whip. Whoosh! A whistling sound broke through the air. It didn't seem to have any power. Originally, the senior brother wanted to directly block it with his body. However, when it got close, a scalding and blazing feeling suddenly came. When the whip fell on his body, the giant volcanic ape reached out to grab the flaming whip. However, the moment he grabbed it, his entire palm and even his entire body burned. "Oh my God, it's so hot, help." His body suddenly burned with a raging fire. Such a sudden burst of power simply made it impossible for people to react. How could this be? How could the flame rush to his body by itself? It was so terrifying. The senior brother wanted to activate his yuan energy to extinguish the flame, but he found that it was impossible. Instead, as his yuan energy erupted, the flame on his body became even more terrifying. Bang! Su Mo stepped forward and kicked the senior brother away. At the same time, he extinguished the flame. In just a short while, the senior brother was burned beyond recognition. It was extremely terrifying to look at. What an unlucky guy. What a strong extension power, just like the fire glaze infernal emperor back then. Given enough time, Su Mo will become the new fire glaze infernal emperor. Li Zongjiu looked at the interesting scene in front of him. Everything was changing. It seemed that Li Zongjiu's interference and changes had changed some of the specific trajectories. However, a new combination had been created. The famous fire-glazed Inferno Emperor was actually created by Li Zongjiu. Just thinking about it was a bit inconceivable. Interesting. Li Zongjiu sat there and smiled. This was the first time Su Mo saw Li Zongjiu revealing such a smile. It seemed a little wretched. "Li Zongjiu, what are you thinking in your head?" Su Mo couldn't help but say. Li Zongjiu woke up with a start and coughed a few times to resolve the awkwardness in front of him. How could he be so immature? In any case, he was an old monster who had lived for 3,000 years. What was there to be surprised and happy about? He really hadn't seen the world. Cough, cough. Nothing. Li Zongjiu said. What should we do with these three people? Bury them? Su Mo looked at Li Zongjiu. These three people had shown strong hostility towards Li Zongjiu from the beginning. Since they were enemies, they couldn't let the tiger go back to the mountain. Naturally, they had to clean them up and ensure that there wouldn't be any trouble in the future. Why are you so ruthless? Li Zongjiu looked at Su Mo. Why did this guy want to bury people so easily? It was too violent. Such an idea wasn't worth advocating. Then Li Zongjiu stepped forward and took off all the storage rings on their bodies. There were many treasures in these storage rings. Most importantly, the medicinal herbs that they had painstakingly collected these days had all fallen into Li Zongjiu's hands. It feels good to reap without sowing. Li Zongjiu let out a long sigh. No wonder so many people wanted to eat and wait for death. This feeling was indeed very good. Zhao Qinfeng slowly woke up from his coma and found that only Li Zongjiu and Su Mo were standing on the ground. Li Zongjiu was holding his storage ring as if he was looking for something. My ring! Zhao Qinfeng immediately shouted after seeing it. But Li Zongjiu directly kicked his face. Go to sleep. It's mine now. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.